Chloe's POV. I panted hard and fast as I ran through the forest grounds. I could hear their paws hammering as they advanced hot on my heels. We had been going at it for over 10 minutes, and those sons of wolves were relentless. They couldn't hold a candle to my speed and abilities. I could have easily killed them and gotten over with the chase, but I wanted to take them further into the forest, as far away from our packlands as I could. I liked to wander around from time to time. Sometimes, I stayed out in the forest for days without returning, but this time I might have wandered off too far. I had gone on one of my many strolls, and when returning home, I had heard the rogues from a distance. I had waited until they noticed me before breaking into a run. I had overheard their discussions, and their intentions made me furious, and I lost it. No wolf is getting out of these forests alive. I had a silver wolf. She was strong, brave, and impatient, and I could already feel her growling as she fought for dominance. "Just hold in there for a while," I muttered as I busted out through the other side of the forest. I could hear them talking. I listened to their frustrated grunts as they thought they'd lost me. Finally, they were close enough. I levitated up into the trees. I watched them below as they all shifted back into their human form. Then I set my target. I descended with vampire speed, coming to stop right in front of them. Looking for me? The wolf in front of me growled, charging towards me, but before he could get to me, I got around him and snapped his neck. I did same with the rest, their bodies falling limp to the ground. I had made sure to take them out of Alpha Marcus's land, all the way to the borders they shared with the neighboring packlands. That way, it will take a while before anyone figured that I had killed them, and it will throw off whoever had sent them. I looked and sniffed around carefully, till I was sure that no one had been close enough to have seen or heard. I broke into a run towards home, my long white hair flowing backwards with the wind as I ran. I finally succumbed to my wolf's plea as she kept whining. She bared her teeth as I shifted, bringing out my beautiful silver wolf. Her furs had some sparkle on them, and they shone brighter whenever I used a great amount of powers. She jumped excitedly, breaking into another run as she took a route towards the lake I liked to have my quiet time. I shook my head, a smile sneaking onto my face as we finally made it. She just sat beside the lake, staring at it and taking in the cool breeze, just as I would, if I had been in my human form. You might have figured out what I was. I'm a hybrid. A half werewolf and half vampire. My dad, who was alpha of my pack, was a werewolf, while my mom, who was the vampire king's daughter and Luna of our pack, was a vampire. I had just celebrated my 18th birthday, when them and the rest of our pack were brutally murdered in cold blood, leaving me all alone. I didn't feel like being here any longer than I already had. My wolf could feel it and got up, running fast through the forest and towards home. We were close to the house now, and my wolf jogged slowly. As we approached the cottage I shared with my best friend Lily and her mate Mark. She was human, while Mark was the beta of Blackwood Pack. He was royalty, making her royalty too. I found some clothes near the house, changed back to my human form as I pulled the shirt over my shorts and bra. I strode lazily to the house, rolling my eyes as I could hear their moans from outside. I know Mark had already sensed me, and as usual, he made no attempt to prep her of my presence. I gently pushed the door open to find Lily and Mark making out on the couch. I rolled my eyes as I passed by them. "Y'all get a roo." My sentence was cut short as Lily let out a yelp, pushing Mark to the ground while trying to shield her naked upper body. She relaxed when she saw me standing there with an amused grin on my face. "Really, Chloe?" She rolled her eyes, a grin sneaking to her lips. "Yeah, really," I shrugged. "Ensure to keep the door locked when you all are getting to it, or keep a do not disturb sign attached to the door." Mark glared from me to Lily as he groaned from the floor. "Aren't you just in time, Chloe?" He spat sarcastically. I gave him the finger. He swatted Lily's hand as she tried to touch him. "What's wrong?" He stared at her in disbelief. "Did you have to push me off, mate?" I was startled. "You do not blame, do you?" "I do." She gasped with fake hurt. I was going to say, "Let's go into the bathroom and finish what we started," but with what you just said, no ass for you. Mark paled, and I let out a light giggle. He went on his knees and started apologizing dramatically. He knew how quick-tempered Lily could get. We all knew, and it was safer not to get in her bad books. I shifted my attention from the couples, sluggishly moving into the kitchen and towards the little table that was for my use only. I picked up a straw before pulling out the blood bag from the fridge. I stuck the straw in, slowly sipping on the blood as I leaned on the cabinet with my eyes closed. Ew! I had sensed her come in but didn't open my eyes until she spoke. Her face was scrunched up in disgust as she stared at me. What? I asked, amused. She sighed, pulling a chair out and dropping down in it. Sometimes I forget that you're half werewolf and half vampire. What do you call that again? Monster? I rolled my eyes at her. It's called hybrid, I informed for the 100th time. She scoffed. Yeah, whatever. That doesn't help me with the creepy feeling. I chuckled, eyeing how she also struggled to hide her smile. That was Lily for you guys, always trying to rile me up. But I knew she had no bad intentions whatsoever. We stayed in peaceful silence. She kept staring at my bag of blood in distaste as I finished up the last fluids and discarded it in the trash can. I went over to the big refrigerator to get an apple and over to the sink where I washed my hands alongside the apple. All the while, I could feel Lily's gaze on me. She sat there scrutinizing me like I were some object of mystery and not saying a word. I started feeling uncomfortable and frustrated. I had to break the silence. What's up? What happened? I raised a questioning brow in response. She groaned, trying to hide her smile. You know what I'm talking about. What are you talking about? She sighed in frustration. Chloe, we've been friends for the past 6 months, and if there is something I've learnt about you, is you can't look me in the eye when you lie, and you're doing that right now. I rolled my eyes at her, deciding to eat my apple somewhere more peaceful, where they are no interfering best friends. I knew she was concerned, and damn her strong, intuitive spirit. I had my suspicion on who had sent those rogues after me, and I feared that the pack might think me as a troublemaker. Chloe, don't walk away from me. Did I listen? No. I walked out of the kitchen and past Mark, who I suspected had heard my discussion with Lily. He eyed me with suspicion, but I kept my face bare of any emotions. Alpha calls, he said, staring straight at me, and when I'm back I expect an explanation. Shit, he knew. The door slammed behind him, trapping me and Chloe alone in the house. My heartbeat sped up as I prayed to the gods for some way out. I hadn't met the Alpha in person, but I knew from rumors I had heard that he wasn't one to mess with. Blast and double blast over. I picked up some blood bags and started walking out of the house. I was too restless to stay here. I was going to busy myself with collecting blood. Since I never drink from humans, my demon was weaker than most vampires, but I trained it to align with my wolf's strength, and to a point I was unbeatable. Chloe, you don't look fine, Lily worried as she followed closely behind me. Talk to me. What troubles you? I came to an abrupt stop, making her walk into me and lose her balance. I'm going out for a hunt. Don't wait up for me. But you've not been home for a day. You just got back. I ignored her. Leaping over the steps, I ran into the forest, my eyes glowing red as I used my full vampire speed. Chloe's POV. Any minute now. I muttered as I heard the running sounds of an animal headed my way. I focused my attention on where I heard the noise coming from, and in less than a minute, a deer came running out of the forest. Not giving it a chance to get past me, I used fast speed and pounced on it, sinking my fangs into its neck. It writhed in pain, struggling until it took its last breath. I busied myself with filling up my empty blood bags, my mind clouded with thoughts of what could happen. My dad had been good friends with the Alpha's dad. That was why I was even accepted into the pack. What was going to become of me if the Alpha already knew of my little escapades? I was definitely getting kicked out of the pack. Wasn't that wonderful? Yay me! Hugh! I got off the now fluidless deer, my blood bag tightly clutched in one hand as I made my way back home. I had wanted staying out of the house for when Betamark returned. It would save me the torture of having to explain myself. But had second thoughts on it and decided to tell Lily the truth. Only if she knew the truth would she be able to help me out. My thoughts shifted back to my unexpected encounter with the rogues. Why would they still be looking for me? Hadn't they done enough already? It's already been half a year. but I still remember it like it was yesterday. My parents, who were the leaders, Alpha and Luna, of our pack, were murdered alongside the rest of our pack. I wasn't allowed to get involved. My dad led me out of the woods, reminding me I had to survive at all costs no matter what I had to do. Luckily, I escaped and had killed everything that stepped in my way. I ran far away from home and came across Lily here in the woods. She was human, but had instantly known me for what I was. I thought she was a witch. I'd been ready to put up a fight, but she backed away, promising me that she meant no harm. She said she was Beta Queen of the pack, and with my thoughts reading ability, I could detect that she wasn't telling a lie. I had followed her home to her mate, who put in a word for me, and I was welcomed into the pack. I could perceive a third presence as I moved closer to the house. Moving with a normal speed, I secured the blood bags in the back shed before coming around the house to meet Lily at the front porch. She was grinning at me like a little girl who had just been given a dollhouse. She amused me a lot. Her vibrant spirit made my miserable life better. "Guess who is here?" I rolled my eyes at her. I had already perceived and heard him a good mile from here, and I knew he could hear us too. "You know I already know who." "Gamma Titus," she said excitedly, ignoring my bored tone. "He's here to see you. I want you to behave," she added in a warning tone. "Yes, Mother," I teased. I intentionally bumped shoulders with her on my way into the house. My eyes immediately landed on the Gamma King of Blackwood Pack. He was royalty also, third in command to the Alpha and next to Beta Mark. He was good friends with Lily and her mate, so he frequented the house more than I wished to see him around. He had had his eyes on me from the first time we met, and he made no effort to hide the fact that he wanted me to be his Gamma Queen. I was told that his mate was murdered 30 years ago in a war between them and another pack. They'd been fighting for a particular piece of farmland, which resulted in a drastic loss from both ends. The Alpha, Dad's friend, had also been murdered in the war, and Alpha Marcus took over. My attention shifted back to Gamma Titus. He was over 70, but still looked around mid-20, which marveled me all the time. However, I had been educated at wolf school that there were important ages and days in a wolf's life that one should never forget. Age 14, you shift into your wolf for the first time and receive your magic. Age 18, eligible to mate. Age 25, a werewolf stops aging. A wolf's lifespan was 1,000 years. Nothing could kill us within that period of time unless infected with a large amount of the wolf virus or snapping of our necks. Still, that didn't help me feel better. Because he looked just a few years older than me, it didn't mean I could ignore that he was actually over 50 years my senior. I was only 18 and my mate was still out there somewhere, not like I wanted to have one, but I knew every wolf was gifted with a mate. He gave me a charming smile, his gray eyes sparkling like they did whenever he saw me, but I gave him my infamous glare. That didn't stop him from trying to pull me in for a hug, but I moved away before he could. "Touch me and I'll break every bone in your body." He chuckled, sitting himself on a couch, and requested me to do the same with a gesture of his hand. I reluctantly dropped myself onto another couch across from him. "Why are you here?" "I came to see you. Shouldn't you be out there doing whatever it is that gammas do?" "I can't help myself." I rolled my eyes. "Aren't you the commander of the pack's army?" He nodded. "Then, it's a pity for us all in time of war," I ended with a dramatic sigh. He chuckled again, giving me a once-over, his eyes appreciating my body in a sexy way. "You're so beautiful and young, you keep distracting me from whatever it is I plan on doing. No matter how many times you reject me, I can't help but always run back to you." Rolling my eyes was a habit whenever I was around Titus. He had a way of getting me drained and fed up. "Why exactly are you here again?" "I have a propose." "Stop right there." I interjected. "If this is about the Be My Gamma Queen proposal, you can forget about it." He shot me a mocking smile while I gave him the stink eye. "So quick to judge, aren't we?" I shrugged. "What's tonight?" I thought for a second before looking up at him. "The full moon, why?" "It's going to be your first full moon ball with us, and I want you to be my date." I huffed, folding my arms across my chest. "And who said I'm going?" "The Alpha." We both turned our attention towards Mark, who was standing at the door. He looked between me and Titus, his expression morphing into a frown. The Blackwood Pack is hosting this year's annual full moon ball, and the Alpha requests everyone to be in attendance. So, Titus muttered, turning his attention to me. What do you say about my proposal? I say no. His face fell in disappointment, then he smiled. We'll see about that. He got up, shook hands with Mark, and went out of the house. He hadn't even closed the door when Mark dashed towards me and dropped down beside me with a serious look on his face. Alpha knows. My heart skipped as my worst fear seemed to be coming to life. I had an idea about what he was talking about, but still asked anyway. Knows what? He knows you're a silver wolf. I heaved a deep sigh in relief, collapsing back against the couch. I lowered my eyes to see his expression. Is that all? He looked confused, and I regretted why I'd asked that. He raised a questioning brow. Is there supposed to be something else? No. He eyed me suspiciously, but dropped it. Do you understand what being a silver wolf entails? I nodded slowly. All silver wolves are Lunas, Alpha Queens. Good. The Alpha has been searching for his mate for centuries now, but all his searches have been unsuccessful. Now he's found you. He's developed some certain interest towards you. My heart that was just starting to relax picked up speed again. I shook my head in disbelief. Don't tell me it's what I'm thinking? He nodded. Yep, it's what you're thinking. He got up, walking away as he spoke over his shoulder. I sent Lily to pack town. She'll get new dresses for you both. I want you to look your best. I sat there in a daze, my head spinning around the information I had just gotten. After avoiding meeting him for 6 months, finally I'd meet him today. Not only was I to meet the intimidating Alpha Marcus, he was considering having me as Luna of the Blackwood Pack. Such wonderful elevation, huh? From refugee she-wolf to Luna. The moon goddess was sure smiling down at me. Only I wasn't smiling back at her. I was scared. So scared, terrified. Marcus's POV. I paced the meeting hall impatiently as I waited for my beta to arrive. It hadn't been more than a minute since I called, but my patience was already running thin. I cut into the pack's link again. Mark, where are you? It took a while, but soon I heard his voice in my head. I'm on my way. I moved around my desk and plopped down in my chair. I couldn't keep calm, kept fidgeting with my fingers. In order to distract myself a bit, I decided to do some paperwork, but raised my head immediately when I sensed Mark's presence. Come in, Beta, I commanded. He pushed open the door and casually walked in. He tipped his head in a bow. Alpha, you called. I nodded calmly, getting off my seat. With my fist tightly clamped behind my back, I walked towards him slowly, keeping my face as calm as I could manage. Once I got close enough, I raised my fist and smacked him hard in the face. He stared at me in shock, clutching onto his bruising nose. Before he could utter a word, I held him in a death choke, rushed across the room, and slammed his back on the wall. How dare you? I thundered. How dare you try to keep her away from me? He pulled against my grip helplessly as he fought for air. I noticed his eyes beginning to roll in and released him. He struggled to retain his standing as he gasped. He panted hard for almost a minute, taking as much breath as he could. Hey! Alpha! He stuttered. If you could be more precise, I'd know who it is you're referring. The silver wolf, I snapped. He opened his mouth to argue, but his eyes widened as realization dawned on him. He lowered his eyes, saying, I'm sorry. I didn't think it necessary. Complete that sentence and I'll unman you, I threatened, scowling at him. His mouth fell shut, eyes darted about the hall, but never met mine. For the past 400 years of my life, all I had ever wanted was a mate. I had searched for her everywhere, through every nook and cranny, and I came to the realization that the moon goddess hadn't blessed me with one. I had finally given up over some 50 years ago. All I needed now was a suitable partner as Luna. I needed someone smart, brave, courageous, and wise. I had searched frantically within the pack, but just like the last, every she-wolf I'd engaged in an affair with weren't cut out to be my perfect queen. I got desperate as the years progressed. I decided to find answers, so I called in a renowned fortune teller. The last time I had gotten my fortune read was 20 years ago. I was told that my mate hadn't yet been born. What disappointment I felt. I was 402 years old, though I looked 25, but the experience and knowledge were different. I couldn't have a child ruled by me. When the fortune teller arrived, he brought better news this time. He said I had a silver wolf in my pack, and she was under the guidance of my beta. I was outraged. Mark knew all right that silver wolves were already destined to be Luna's. The moon goddess hadn't blessed me with a mate, but she'd gifted me a silver wolf, my future queen. I whipped around to face Mark, who had cowered into a corner, keeping a good distance from me. I want her before me now. He looked unsure, then reluctantly said, Since tonight is the full moon ball, wouldn't it be nice if you proposed to her there? I pondered over his suggestion, then nodded in agreement. He had a point. I want everyone in attendance, particularly the silver wolf. Lead her straight to me. I want not a hair on her head tampered with. He nodded. Go see to it that everything is planned out well for tonight. Nothing is to go amiss. Once he left, I contacted Lima through the link, asking him for information on the silver wolf. I had asked him earlier to look into her. I felt really thoughtless for not meeting her when she first came. I would have been able to know her for what she was. I relaxed when he promised to bring in as much information he would have access to. I settled back in my seat, going through some important documents. My body tensed up, my wolf growling in disapproval as we felt some other presence approaching. I groaned when Kara opened the door and walked in with a bright smile on her face. Hey, baby, she purred, coming to sit herself in my laps. I firmly grasped onto her waist, lifted her off me, and pushed her away. What are you doing? She asked in an irritated tone. What are you doing here? I glared pointedly at her. She looked taken aback, but then collected herself after a few seconds and replied, I came to see you. You know why. She whispered in a sultry voice, then winked at me. I sighed, shoving her hands when she tried to wrap them around my neck. I was fed up with her and her whorish attitude. She'd been sleeping around with everything in trousers, and she thought I wouldn't find out. Of all the girls I'd gone out with, she was the least to ever be considered for the Luna position. Now listen to me carefully, I started in a serious tone, and extend my message to the other she-wolves who think they can crowd my space whenever they want. I will no longer be entertaining any woman. She broke into little giggles. The wait has been too long, but finally. I looked at her like she'd gone mad. Whatever do you mean by that? She smiled, starting to unbutton her shirt. You've finally decided to make me Luna. I stared at her in disbelief. I knew she was a senseless beauty, only good for a man's sexual pleasure. What I never knew was that her case was that, critical. By now her shirt had hit my desk, her mini skirts followed suit, and she stood in only her underwear. She was a beautiful woman and a hard one to resist, that I couldn't deny. My eyes slowly appreciated her body. It weakened when a certain someone crossed my mind. I want you to pick up your clothes and get out of my face, I growled. She looked shocked and hurt. It was going to be the first time I turned her down. But Mark, out, I interjected. Out with you now. She quickly slipped on her clothes. I could feel the tension radiating off her body as she struggled not to cry. She clothed herself fully, shooting me one last glare, and stomped out of my office. Damn! How could she possess so much power over me when I hadn't even met her yet? Only the thoughts of being with another woman felt like I was betraying her. How did she look? How old was she? Was she what I needed in a Luna? She had to be. The moon goddess never makes a mistake. Random thoughts filled my mind, my work long forgotten, as all I could think about was the silver wolf. I wondered if she'd be able to love me genuinely, and not only lust over the power of being Luna. I needed someone trustworthy and loyal, someone worthy of my affection. My mind shifted back to Lima. An hour had already gone by, and I believed he should have gotten some information for me. Where are you, Lima? It took about another 10 minutes before he replied. I found something interesting that you'll like to see. I'll be there in a few. My body was excited as well as my wolf. He could sense my excitement and joined me in our newfound victory. He was super excited today, pestering me to let him out so we could go for a hunt. I rolled my eyes, muttering to him to have some patience. I had important things to do, and a run was the last thing I'd let him coax me into. I shot out of my seat once I sensed Lima. He was walking towards me, and we met at the door. He chuckled as he opened the door and walked into me. You're thrilled, aren't you? Shut up and give me whatever it is you have. He passed me a wolfish grin. "Aye, my lord, lead the way, please." I turned around swiftly and marched towards my desk while he followed closely behind me. Lima was my favorite Omega. I had stumbled into him some 100 years ago, and we'd been close since then. Apart from Mark and Titus, who were my right-hand men, he was someone I could trust. The higher rank and power didn't intimidate him. He was actually a proud Omega. He slammed down an envelope on my desk, but never took his hand off it. I raised my eyes to meet him, to find an amused smirk plastered on his face. If whatever he'd found was amusing to him, it meant to put me in a fit of rage. I cautiously picked up the envelope, sending him out. I pulled out a stack of papers and my heart rate picked up as I started skimming through the pages. Marcus's POV. Chloe Tristan. My wolf's ear perked up as I muttered her name. I was hoping to see what she looked like, but Lima hadn't included a photo. Damn stupid wolf, he did that on purpose. I went through her profile. Blood relations. Daughter to late Alpha John Tristan and Luna Brenda of the Tristan Pack. Single child. Pack. Refugee wolf. Joined the Blackwood Pack 6 months ago. Status. Silver wolf, hasn't found her mate yet. Keeps away from the crowd and is quite a wanderer. That made me smile. She was a wanderer like myself. We could wander off together, hold hands while we watched the sunset in the hills, and make love under the night skies. I smiled as my thoughts turned naughty. My wolf kept muttering silly things in my head. Seeming like I wasn't the only one excited to meet her, I stared down at my trousers and groaned. I shook the feeling away, wanting to suspend them until the moment we finally met. I returned my attention to the file in my hand. Physical attributes. You'll have to find that out yourself. Fool, I muttered, almost choking on a laugh. Lima knew how to rile me up, but he knew me too well to know that. I would prefer seeing her in person. I wasn't offended, it only triggered my curiosity further. Age. Before you find out her age, I want you to know something. Gamma Titus is very interested in her and has been seeing her for some months now. My wolf growled in jealousy, my eyes glowing a bright brown as I felt like tearing someone to pieces. Seemed like I was missing out on something. My Beta and Gamma had some explaining to do. I went back to reading. So it's okay if you don't want her. The Gamma will be thrilled to have her to himself. I had a couple of noses to break. Everyone should be reminded of their places. Age, 18 years old. The papers slipped out of my hold, a bitter feeling crawling into my stomach. Seriously? A teenager? I wondered what the goddess was thinking when she gave me a teenager as Luna. No one was allowed to question fate, but at this point it was quite questionable. I heaved a heavy sigh as I leaned back in my seat. What if she panics when she finds out how old I am? Would she like me back then? Would she want me? She was so young and inexperienced. She was one of the youngest wolves in the pack, and I, one of the oldest. I hoped that wouldn't be a problem. I really hoped it wouldn't. There never could be any mistakes with destiny. We would all have to accept our fates. I went back to the documents, going through some other irrelevant stuff Lima had scribbled down. There wasn't much given. It was information about where she stayed and all those she associated with. I couldn't help the grunt that escaped my mouth when I saw Titus's relationship with her. He visited her every other day, apart from when she left the house for days without returning. He had spunk to even like her in the first place and wanting her to be his mate. Hadn't he thought about what I would do to him if I were to find out? Luck was on his side that he hadn't marked her before it came to my knowledge. I would have ripped his head off of his neck. My eyes shifted to the little grandfather clock that rested on the left corner of my desk. It was still 5 minutes past 6 p.m., and the ball was to start at 9:30 p.m. I could no longer control my inquisitiveness, and it was getting me frustrated. It also didn't help that the wolf kept giving me the push. He wanted me to go to her, and I didn't want that. I wanted to wait until tonight to see her body react to me and what she thought of my proposal. She wouldn't reject me. Even if she wanted to, she couldn't. It was what fate had designed for us both, and we had no choice but to accept it. On my part, I would have preferred a much older and experienced partner, but I'd have to accept her as she came. Chloe's POV. I paced the living room restlessly, waiting for Lily to return. Mark was long gone, off to perform whatever duties he had. Lily knew I wouldn't want to go shopping with her, as I had made it clear that I wanted to keep my distance from the other wolves. Aside from not being so much of a socialite, I also had an identity to conceal. How was I to protect myself now the alpha wanted me as his mate? To become Luna meant to tell everyone in the pack what I was, and that particular information I wasn't ready to let go of. All I had to do was meet Alpha Marcus, and if I managed not to get myself intimidated, I'd tell him I wasn't interested in his offer. He could find some other she-wolf who was interested and make her Luna. I could even lie about having a mate, right? Right? My wolf shook her head at me, clearly not in agreement with my decision. I wasn't going to let her override my thinking and land us all in trouble. Never. I sensed Lily approaching and dashed towards the door. I flung the door open to meet Lily with a palm up. She silenced me from asking whatever I had wanted to. My eyes flickered to her other hand, which carried 4 little shopping bags. I know you want to bombard me with questions. Just so you know, I have no answers for you. She shoved me aside and walked into the house. I spun around, following hot on her trails. What does he look like? I told you not to ask me anything. But seriously, what does he look like? I pressed further, pressuring her to give in. She got into my room, dropped the bags on the bed, and turned to face me. She had a sly smile gracing her lips as she took my hand and led me to the couch. He is extremely handsome. You know the Greek gods kind of handsome? I nodded, my face getting flushed. I could feel the heat creep up my neck and into my cheeks. Oh gods, do I see someone blushing? Lily mocked, giggling at my flushed state. I know you weren't expecting that reply from me, but girl, he is to die for. I've heard you, Beta Queen. I wonder how Mark would feel if he heard you right now. I can't help it, she fanned her face dramatically. If my mate hadn't found me, I definitely would have gone for him. I rolled my eyes at her. Thank you so much for your encouragement. You are most welcome. We stayed in silence. She got up and walked over to where the bags sat on the bed, pulling out dresses and laying them out on the bed. Next, she fetched out some shoes and jewelry from the other bags. She had more than enough dresses and diamonds for us to pick from. I also had a couple of dresses she'd gifted me. Why waste so much money for just a ball? Lily? Don't you think you went overboard with the whole shopping spree? She was silent for a while, but answered, No. No what? She sighed, obviously getting fed up with my endless questions. I don't think I went overboard. Now can you shut up and let me concentrate? I fell silent. A pout unknowingly snuck its way to my lips. I was worried and restless. No one would talk to me, and not even my best friend wanted to listen to my whining. No one seemed to want to be on my side. Think, Chloe. Think. I had to convince Lily that it was a bad idea. That would be the only way to persuade Mark, and he in turn would convince the Alpha. Lily, I want to ask you a question. She nodded. After contemplating it, I finally asked, Team Alpha or Team Gamma? Huh? Lily questioned, not sparing me a glance. I hesitated, wanting to choose my words cautiously. Damn Lily and her quick temper, she scared me at times like this. If I decided to become Gamma Queen, would you support my decision? Silence. That was all she gifted me with. I gulped, starting to regret why I'd asked that in the first place. I couldn't afford her getting pissed at me. I couldn't see her face, but I could read her anger radiating off of her. Go have a shower, her authoritative voice boomed, interjecting with my thoughts. We need to get you ready before myself, and we have less than 3 hours to get ready. I started to argue. I don't wanna. Keep the Alpha waiting, she hissed with finality. She shot me a warning glare, then walked out of my room. That was such a huge success, wasn't it? Chloe's POV. Stay still, Chloe. I can't pull your zipper up if you keep moving so much, Lily scolded. She had picked out an emerald green satin dress for me. It was handless and had a slit in between the chest. Tiny pieces of green diamonds sewn together made up one part of the chest, while the other was made of the satin material shaped tightly from my chest, all the way down and flared out at the knees. It had a longer slit that started from my hips all the way down to the bottom. I felt pretty exposed. It didn't help that I was thick in all the right areas. I had wide hips and pretty huge breasts, all which I'd inherited from my mother. My body's maturity was unlike most teenagers my age. My breasts were already threatening to jump out of the dress, and the zipper around that area had refused to go any further. "Why don't I take this dress off and we go for something modest?" I suggested. "Never." Lily breathed hard, her energy draining with the stress of the zipper not complying. "You are going to wear this dress. It goes well with your green eyes. Or the dress is slutty enough for your alpha's liking?" I asked, irritation seeping into my voice. Just then, the zipper went past the barrier. Lily did some victory dance, sticking her tongue out at me. Her eyes roamed all over my body as she acknowledged her hard work with a nod. "He wouldn't be able to take his eyes off you and might have you by the end of the night," she giggled excitedly. I tensed up, all the colors draining from my already pale face. Lily's smile faded and panic set in as she inquired what had made me tense. I dismissed her worries, telling her to get dressed and do her makeup before attending to my hair. It took a while and a lot of forced smiles before I could send her away. I knew she wasn't convinced, but she understood that I needed some alone time. I slowly sat on my bed, taking my head in my hands. I hadn't thought about him wanting to mark me, which wasn't a good idea at all. I had to do something, had to let him know I wasn't interested before it got too far. My wolf scowled, expressing her displeasure. I knew she'd been excited about us becoming Luna, but I couldn't ignore my demon. I had to keep both balanced, as they never ceased seeking dominance. I couldn't let any of them overpower me, or things would go out of hand. I was the mistress of both forces. I had to be in control at all times. "It's been decided. I'll tell him tonight," I hissed back at her. Lily came in some minutes later, her beautiful dress, which was far more modest than mine, clinging to her body in perfection. She had on makeup similar to mine, the smoky eyes and full brows, but her lipstick was pink while she'd colored my lips with a blood red. Her brown hair was pulled up in a neat bun, little baby hair scattered around it. She had a glittering blue diamond necklace around her neck, which complemented her blue eyes. Picking up a similar necklace, but mine were white diamonds, she clipped it around my neck. I turned to face the mirror, taking my time to admire the jewelry that sat delicately against my pale skin. My eyes rolled over to my face, and it was hard to recognize the angel in the mirror. My reflection almost convinced me that I was worthy of becoming Luna. Even my wolf purred in appreciation, but I knew the blatant truth. I was worthless. "What do you think?" Lily smiled at my reflection, pride written all over her face. She'd been battling with my hair for some minutes. She'd parted it in the center, adding deep waves to my already slightly wavy white hair. I looked perfect, too perfect for my own good. "You cocky bitch," she chuckled, shaking her head at me. "Remain sitting, don't mess anything up, and I'll be back in a few." She retreated out of the room. I could hear her footsteps as she went around the house and over to the shed. She'd found my blood bags. My demon was restless with excitement as we perceived the blood. My hands were already stretched out and waiting. Lily chuckled as she walked in, handing me a blood bag and a straw. "I want you to stay right here and don't ruin your dress or makeup. I have to contact Mark. I'll be back." I nodded readily as I sipped on my blood, relishing in the phenomenal taste. I closed my eyes, heaving a sigh. The day hadn't been favoring, and if I didn't thread carefully, it could end in a disaster. I hoped it would be over soon, and come tomorrow, I'd leave home before anyone awoke and won't be back in a couple of days. "That sounds like a good idea. What do you think?" "I think you should be Luna." I rolled my eyes at my wolf. "Wrong answer, sis." She retreated into the back of my mind, not wanting to talk to me. She was always ready to talk to me. It made me sad that she was offended by my decision. If only she could understand. I also had a demon to protect. If I didn't become Luna, I'd be able to protect them both. If I did become Luna, I'd be risking all three of us, and that was a no. She'd be sad for a while, but hopefully she'd come around. Marcus's POV. "How do I look?" Lima smirked, running his eyes over me like he was seeing me for the first time. "You look old," he replied. I tensed up, dread coursing through my body. My face must have given away my emotions because Lima exploded into a fit of laughter. I growled at him, but that didn't stop him. "You should see your face," he said in between laughs. "Relax, man. You look 25. If your age bothers you so much, then don't tell her." She'd know after you've marked her anyways, but wouldn't be able to dump your old ass then, he ended with a laugh. I gave him a dirty look. That wasn't funny in the least. Be careful. He raised his hand up in mock surrender. Apologies, Your Majesty. You look dashing in your three-piece tuxedo, and I bet Luna will fall head over heels once she sees you. This guy, I fought with a smile, not wanting to show my excitement. Thank you, Lima. I don't doubt your observations for a second. Of course, he bowed lower than necessary. Our ever-handsome and young alpha, he said. I could see the amusement written all over his face. I chose to ignore him. I focused my hearing and could hear other wolves coming into my lands. The hall was crowding in with people, and with the information Mark had provided me, almost every wolf was already in the ballroom. I cut through the link. Mark, I'm still waiting. Instead of Mark, it was Titus who replied. On our way, boss, we had something to take care of. A deep frown graced my face as I recalled his growing relationship with Chloe. I'd instructed Mark not to tell him about the plan. I had a surprise for him tonight. Lima, it's time, I ordered. He got up and walked out of my room. I followed him out, heading for my office. I could hear Mark and Titus talking as I approached. They bowed when I got in. Lima bowed before them and went to stand far behind us. He wasn't allowed to act casually with me in the presence of the other wolves. No one was allowed to think they could question my authority. They both wore similar black suits and ties like mine. I'd asked them to go all out for themselves and their women. I'd also given Mark enough money to make Chloe look flawless. I wanted heads to turn when she walked through the door. It was my first full moon ball hosting as alpha, and I wanted my royalties to look superior to every royalty in attendance. Well done, boys, I nodded, feeling pleased. I focused my attention on Titus as I said, I hope you all went out for your women. Titus, I expect to see a woman on your arm tonight. He smiled proudly. Actually, there is someone. You'll meet her tonight. He spoke with affection glinting in his eyes. I fought with myself not to dive him to the ground. My fist itched to have a connection with his nose, but I got a grip on myself. I was going to deal with him after the ball. Didn't realize I was glaring at Titus until Mark made a fake cough. My attention shifted to him, then back to Titus, who looked uncomfortable from my previous glare. I looked towards where Lima stood, and the fool was trying so hard not to laugh. The others couldn't see him as he was behind them. Mark? Yes, Alpha. I want you to accompany me to the hall. Mark raised a questioning brow, his eyes flickering to Titus and back to me before asking, What about Chloe? I held back a chuckle as Titus' eyes quickly darted to Mark in confusion. Chloe? What about her? That is of no concern to you, I snapped. I had intended to hold it in, but him saying her name and acting all protective had snapped something in me. I want you to go get her and bring her right to me. If she gets a scratch, I'll decapitate you. He looked confused and angry, getting ready to argue. I fixed him a challenging glare, daring him to question my command. He huffed, his chest rising and falling fast as he looked at us all in the room before stomping out. Now we wait, I told my wolf. He grunted in agreement. I walked out. Mark followed suit while Lima followed, keeping some space in between us as we marched to the ballroom. Chloe's POV. Stop looking at me like that. It's creeping me out. I had just finished sipping from my second blood bag when I sensed Titus at the door. I moved with vampire speed, quickly grabbed the blood bags, squeezed them and threw them out my window. Bless Lily, she'd left me a glass of water on my bedside stool. I washed my mouth, then my hands. I grabbed the lipstick and added some to my lips, then threw some mint into my mouth. I was back on my bed, sitting elegantly like I hadn't been multitasking a few seconds ago. Why was Titus here, by the way? Had he found out about the Alpha's intentions? That was definitely going to set him off. Come in, I called when he got to the door. He pushed the door and stepped in, his jaw hanging low once he saw me. His eyes scanned my body and I saw him gulp, attraction swirling in his gray orbs. It's rude to stare, Gamma Titus. Could you please cease from doing so? He blinked, finally shutting his mouth. I just can't help it, he stuttered at a loss for words. You look breathtaking. I rolled my eyes at him. You say that all the time, Titus. You really should work on your pickup lines. He smirked, moving towards me. He came to stop in front of me, keeping a reasonable distance between us. I'm here to take you. Take me where? Where else? He grinned. To the ball, of course. A little sigh escaped my lips. I told you I wouldn't be escorting you to the ball. And you have your wish! My face scrunched up in confusion as I waited for him to clarify. I'll be the one escorting you. His voice suddenly dropped, a deep frown gracing his face. He watched me carefully. Alpha Marcus asked me to take you to him. I tried to keep my face bare of emotions. My heartbeat quickened and I knew he could hear it. The nervousness I'd managed to let go of swiftly returned. You're breathing so fast. There was suspicion at the edge of his voice and he didn't bother to hide the jealousy. I could feel it emanate from his body and linger in the air. Why? I tried to make light of the situation. It's because I'm nervous, I scoffed. That didn't seem to go well with him. He was expecting a different reply. Why does Marcus want me to take you to him? Oh, he didn't know yet. I was going to play it safe then. I wasn't about to tell him that his alpha intended to snatch away his crush. If I knew him well enough, he'd blow off. So I shrugged. I should be asking you that. If you who are royalty aren't aware, what could I, a common refugee, know? He eyed me with suspicion, then nodded. I guess we'll find out soon, only then can I know the guilty ones. That seemed to tick me off. Excuse me, Mr. Gamma, what was that supposed to mean? I glared at him while he kept a stoic face. I do not owe you any explanations. It's not like we're in a relationship or something. You're mine. That's how it should be, he growled, his body trembling with rage. To hell with you, Titus. To hell with you. I got up, pushing against his chest, but he didn't budge. Get out of my room, out! He looked down at me for a while, then heaved a breath. He raised his hands in a form of surrender. I'm sorry if I went out of line. I got carried away. You better be, I muttered under my breath. I moved away from him and plopped down on my bed. Without looking at him, I said, Go get me a cup of water. I suddenly feel thirsty. He went out without a fuss and came back a minute later with a glass of water. I said my thanks, putting the glass to my lips and emptying it in one go. Titus wouldn't stop staring at me. He knew how uncomfortable and frustrated he made me feel. I guess it was because I had no feelings for him whatsoever. You're so beautiful, he said like he was in a daze. By the gods, you're the most beautiful she-wolf I'd ever come across. My wolf giggled, and it escaped out of my mouth. She loved compliments unlike me. I was too bitter to care about what someone thought of my outer beauty. The inside was totally damaged and broken. That's enough for tonight, Titus. I'm running out of patience. He chuckled. I wouldn't mind singing praises to you for the rest of my life. That uncomfortable feeling returned. I wondered what his reaction would be when he got updated on what was happening or about to happen. It felt hard explaining to him. Not like I liked him in the least, but I knew his feelings towards me were strong and sincere. How was he going to take it that the alpha suddenly wanted me? He was going to say something when Lily walked into the room, giggling. That's enough bickering for tonight. Let's get moving. She came towards me, wanting to assist me out, but Titus stopped her. She looked between me and Titus with an uncertain look on her face, finally giving in when he didn't relent. I let him hold my arm as he led me to the car that was parked right in front of our cottage. I had never seen a car around here in the woods, making me wonder what anyone could be using a car for in the woods. Titus, is this yours? Lily scoffed from beside me. I turned to see she had a smile on her face. It's the Alpha's. She wiggled her eyebrows suggestively. He has 2 more. Yeah, whatever, Titus muttered, the grip on my hand tightening. We all got in, each of them at my sides. I said my greetings to the Omega that was driving us, and soon the car kicked to life and moved. It wasn't for up to 2 minutes when the machine came to a stop. I turned to Lily in disbelief. That's it, she nodded. We could have just walked then. What a waste of transportation. The Alpha didn't want you stressed in the least. Can you imagine? An overexcited Lily gushed, while I felt Titus tense up beside me. Lillian? Yes, dear? Can you shut your mouth for the rest of the night? She gave it a thought, her little lips forming a pout. Given that I talk a lot, that might be a little too hard on me, right? I gave her a dirty look, my eyes flickering to Titus and back to her. Her eyes widened in understanding and she nodded. What now? I asked, getting exhausted while sitting in the car. Titus, Lily gulped when Titus snapped his angry face towards her. Why don't you escort Chloe in, then I'll wait out here for Mark to come get me. Titus groaned and stepped out of the vehicle. He turned to offer me his arm, which I took. Shall we? We shall. I moved with him, arm in arm, towards the large hall. I could hear voices, heartbeats, laughter. No sound escaped my demon's ears. That was how much my hearing abilities had advanced. My wolf seemed to be focused on one particular heartbeat. She jumped in excitement as we approached. She wanted me to move faster, but I ignored her. Such a selfish girl. My legs trembled slightly as we progressed. The amount of power in the room nearly threw me off when we walked in. The room fell silent, and I could feel every eye in the room on us. I glanced up at Titus, and he was already looking at me with a proud smile. Keep your chin raised, shoulders high. You are the most beautiful of all, he said with a pride-filled voice. Then he whispered, They can't help themselves. I knew they could hear him, and it made me flush in embarrassment. I raised my eyes when I felt Mark approach us. You look beautiful, he nodded in acknowledgement. Then he turned to Titus. If I were you, I'll keep my distance, bro. Titus eyed him cautiously, but he walked past us and out of the hall. I turned back to Titus. What was that about? He had tensed up again, his grip firm on my arm as we proceeded. The chattering had gone on, but I could still feel many eyes on us. My wolf wanted me to turn around, but I ignored her. She kept pushing, even threatened to shift me forcefully, but I threatened back. You wouldn't dare me. Then, just like the cool breeze of the night, I felt it. There was someone behind me. The power they possessed had to be higher than most people in the room. I had only sensed something like that from my dad and a couple of alphas I had met. It had to be him, the alpha. I heard a growl from behind me and quickly spun around. There he stood, his eyes glowing a bright brown as he glared at where Titus held me. Titus quickly released me, stepping away. Our eyes finally met, and my wolf gasped in excitement. That's him, sis! That's our mate! Mate, he muttered. My eyes widened in shock as we stared at each other. My wolf wanted me to go to him, but I stepped back when he took a step forward. Panic suddenly seized me. I turned around and ran out of the hall. Marcus's POV. I felt restless as I paced about the hall, sending my greetings to everyone. It didn't feel right doing that with my beta beside me. She was supposed to be here. She was to play the perfect hostess as we welcomed our guests. Relax, the people are beginning to gossip, Mark came to whisper in my ear. When will she be here? Titus had better not test my patience. Mark sighed. Just contacted Lily. She said they'll be moving soon. Can you at least relax? Your impatience is beginning to irritate me, he snapped. I gave him a dirty look. Imagine if your girl was with some sick pervert. How will? With all due respect, don't finish that sentence, he growled. A chuckle rumbled from my chest. Mark was a total idiot where Lily was concerned. It was bad when he met her. It worsened as the years progressed. I had gone too far into my thoughts and was caught off guard when my wolf forcefully turned me towards the entrance. Immediately, a strong sensation enveloped me, coursing from my head down to my feet. I hadn't sensed her when she came in because I'd been distracted, but now I set my eyes on her. I couldn't look away. That's our mate. I couldn't stop the happy sigh that slipped out of my lips. I had been bothered that she wouldn't want to be Luna when she actually was Luna. Mate, I tested the words on my tongue. Mark turned to me with wide eyes, then back to Chloe. Shit, I can't believe this is happening, he ended with a chuckle. I ignored him. My wolf was mad at Titus for being so close to her. I know I'd sent him to get her, but how was I to know she'd turn out to be my mate? Just as my wolf wanted, I started charging towards them. I was angrier now that I knew he'd been trying to woo my mate. That was a double offense. Mark followed, blocking my path as he eyed my glaring face. Let her come to you. There is a reason I've protected her all this time. Relax, so you don't scare her. I turned to face him. He also wore a warning glare. Slowly, he backed away from me. I'm going to get Lily. I muttered a string of profanities under my breath. It was torture enough that I couldn't be close to her after waiting centuries to meet her, but it was a different level of pain in watching another wolf so close to her. My feet moved on their own accord, and I stood right behind them, glaring at the back of Titus' head. I connected him through the link. Unhand my mate now. Like she'd heard my voice in Titus' head, she spun around, locking gaze with me. It took her a few seconds as she stared at me in shock. Her green eyes turned a bright silver when she recognized me. The time had finally come, the time I'd waited centuries for. The bond roared with a force, pulling us together. I stared at her in amazement as her eyes dimmed their glow until they retained their original green color. "Mate," she muttered so low that a human wouldn't have heard her. I was trapped in my own body, while my wolf kept urging me to go to her. All that kept resounding in my head were the fortune teller's words 20 years ago. "Your mate is yet to be born." She was born 2 years after I gave up on her. I thought I wouldn't see her until I breathed my last, but the moon goddess had dropped her straight into my hands. I was still in awe of her striking beauty. Her skin as fair as snow, her hair as white as the moon, and her plump lips as succulent as a cherry. I loved a beautiful woman any time, and the gods had taken their time to carve out the perfect one for me. I finally moved towards her, but she took a frightened step backwards. My heart dropped into my stomach and stirred up intense fear there as I saw the panicked look on her face. Before I could get a word out, she turned and ran out of the hall. Fuck! Double fuck and fuck over! That was me living my worst fear, the fear of her not wanting me back. I was scared enough when I didn't know she was my mate. We had no bonds to bind our souls together, but I was scared she wouldn't want to be my Luna. Now we both couldn't back out, and that gave me some hope. My wolf growled as my eyes flickered back to Titus. He stood in shock, wide eyes staring between me and the door Chloe had just run through. I located him through the link. "Stay the hell away from my mate and see me tomorrow." Ignoring all the stares, I went after her. I had just started to contact Mark when he walked towards me. "She ran out, Mark. You needed to see her. She was scared of me." He nodded. "I know. We found her on her way into the woods. Lily had suspected that she might pull that kind of stunt, so we waited out there for her." I sighed in relief, giving him a pat on the shoulder. "Where is she now? Can I go to her?" "Give her some time, man. Lily's talking some sense into her. She'll come around." I didn't like the fact that they wanted to keep her away from me. My wolf agreed too. He wanted to see her again. I groaned in frustration, passing my fingers through my hair. "Mark? Yes? How was it when you first met Lily? Was she scared of you?" He chuckled, passing me a teasing smirk. "She liked me instantly, but panicked when she found out what I was. She was unsure, but I proved myself worthy of her love. I still prove myself every day. Yours is a different case entirely." He laughed, putting a palm over his mouth when I sent him a glare. "Let's just go in and wait for them. And if they don't come back, then we'll go in search of them." I wasn't satisfied with his response, but I obliged. I turned around and marched towards the hall. Just as we were ascending the staircase, Kara called out to me. I groaned, turning to face her. "What?" I snapped. Her eyes were blotchy and her face red. She looked like she'd been crying. "What is this nonsense I hear about you finding your mate? They're lying, right?" "I do not answer to you. Move out of my way and let me through," I hissed in a threatening voice. When she still wouldn't move out of the way, I shoved her to the side. "Not now, Kara. I have more important things to worry after." I went back in to join the party. I could feel Kara's eyes on me, but she kept her distance, which was a good thing. I was in no mood to deal with a whining ex-lover. She was no longer of any use to me. I have Chloe now. Did I really, or was I trying to convince myself? I was getting impatient, angry, and confused. It had been over 10 minutes and still no sign of my white-haired mate. Mark had left my side and was now in a corner talking to Titus. I had caught Titus's glare a couple of times, and of course, I glared back harder. The only thing saving his ass were the guest wolves present. I wouldn't have hesitated to show him his place. I got a whiff of her smell and turned to see her walking arm in arm with Lily. I growled, not liking the close proximity between them. "Thank you, Lillian," I said as she left Chloe before me. She passed me a little smile, then went away to look for Mark. Her eyes were casted low, her body shivering as her little form stood before me. She gave me a bow, Alpha. I breathed in a sigh, her lovely voice sounding like music to my ears. I brought my hand to her face, gently lifting her head so I could look at her beautiful eyes. She gulped visibly, her eyes darting about but never meeting mine. "My Luna," I greeted back. Her face paled as she stepped back a little. I tried to conceal my hurt with a forced smile. "Would you mind being my escort for the rest of the night?" She was starting to object with a shake of her head, but as if remembering something, she nodded. She placed her hand on mine when I offered to follow me reluctantly. I had to pull her around with a little force. She kept resisting my touches the whole night, trying to keep as much distance from me as she could. Chloe's POV. "Oh no, 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 no," I lamented, looking to see if anyone was following as I made my escape into the woods. Moon goddess, what sort of expensive joke is this supposed to be? Just some minutes earlier, I had intended to reject the alpha's offer of becoming Luna of the pack, and what now? I am his freaking mate. Out of every wolf in the pack, my mate had to be the goddamn alpha. Damnation, my life is over. I took my shoes off. The stupid high heels were giving me discomfort. I started with a slow jog, trying as hard as I could not to give in to my demon's speed. She wanted me to run away as fast as I could and protect her from what was threatening her safety. My wolf, on the other hand, was outraged. She wanted to go back to her mate, feel the touch of his arms, and I was denying her that. She kept throwing threats at me. "Turn around now." "To hell with turning around," I shot back. "I will forcefully shift you." "Shut the fuck up." We kept roaring at each other, and I got distracted, losing awareness of my surroundings. I hadn't even sensed their presence until I bumped into someone. I yelped, jumping back as I set to defend. My body relaxed when I saw who it was, and I ran into the waiting arms of my best friend. A sob escaped my lips, tears beginning to cascade down my cheeks. "I am doomed, Lily. My life is over." "Shh," she cooed, gently stroking my hair. "It's okay, sweetheart. I got you." My eyes fluttered open when I caught a whiff of Mark's scent. He was somewhere around. My eyes settled on where the scent was emitting from, and soon Mark's brown wolf came out from behind the trees. He stalked towards us, shifting back to his human form when he reached us. He must have noticed the confusion on my face because he suddenly spoke. "We were waiting out here for you." I rolled my eyes, burying my face deeper into Lily's neck. "You both are impossible. How did you know?" Mark groaned in disapproval, due to the fact that I had his mate in such an intimate position. He did that almost all the time. It was something we'd both expected because we sent glares to him. "Shut the fuck up, Mark," we snapped simultaneously. He grunted, but didn't say another word. Lillian stretched out a hand to caress his cheek. "Please put on your clothes and leave us alone. If Marcus tries to come after her, stop him. I'll bring her to him." I started to disagree. "I don't want to." "Get me pissed off at you," she finished off, shooting me a sharp glare. "If you know what is good for you, put yourself together and stop acting irrationally." My mouth fell shut. I watched as Mark put his clothes on, dropped a peck on Lily's lips, and went on his way. Lily stretched forth her hand and I took it, letting her lead me deeper into the forest. She didn't say a word to me, and I did the same, dwelling in my thoughts. I instantly recognized the paths she was leading me through. They led to the lake, my quiet place. Apart from me, Lily was the only one who knew of that place. The first time I vanished without letting her know where I went, she panicked and stayed up crying all night. When I got home the next day at noon, she welcomed me home with a slap, then a hug. She'd warned me never to give her that kind of scare again, so I took her into the woods and told her to come look for me at the lake when she missed me too much. I got fed up with the silence and decided to break it. "How did you know?" I inquired. "Know what?" "That I would try to escape." She chuckled, giving me a look of disbelief. "I am your best friend, Chloe. I know you like the palm of my hand." I scoffed in annoyance. "Yeah, whatever." A little laugh escaped her, and I fought with my own smile before we got silent again. I could already spot the lake glittering under the moonlight, the birds chirping in the trees above like they were singing a welcome song for us. I had been here just this morning, but the many mind-shattering events of the day made it feel like a million years ago. My eyelids fluttered shut on their own accord as I breathed in the cool night breeze. Lily left my hand. Taking off the blue shawl that was secured around her neck, she spread it out on the floors of the forest. She helped herself down on it, ushering me to join her. I sat myself down, bending my legs to the back as I fidgeted with my fingers. Lily? She replied. I have found my mate, I whispered with trembling lips. The words still sounded strange coming from me. I turned to look at Lily, and she nodded. Mark told me. She paused, then added hesitantly. That was why I decided to wait out here. I knew you'd panic. I let out a gasp, warm tears clouding my vision as I started to cry. I'm doomed, Lily. I'm done for. What grave sins have I committed to face such punishment? Don't say that, Chloe, she scolded softly. A mate is a blessing, and you are lucky to have found yours at such a young age, while others spend centuries looking for theirs. What is a blessing when you don't want it? A damn curse. Lily started to argue, but I halted her with a raise of my palm. Not the right time to lecture me, Lily. Just listen, or I will run away and you can't stop me, I threatened. She raised her hands in surrender, then did a gesture of zipping her lips and throwing away the keys. I rolled my eyes at her dramatic attitude, blowing my nose with a kerchief she passed me. How exactly do I conceal my identity now? You and I both know that werewolves have never been best friends with vampires. The constant war in my body between my demon and wolf is evidence enough. But your father protected your mother, who was a full vampire, for so many years. Alpha will protect you too, she argued. I passed her a sad smile. You don't get it, do you? She pressed her lips tightly in displeasure. I could see the anger swirling in her eyes, and she not exploding was a whole new level of improvement for quick-tempered Lily. I guess she took my threat seriously. My parents were in love with each other. My dad was ready to die before he let anything get to my mother. In our case, I don't love him, and obviously, he doesn't love me too. My wolf winced at my questioning of our mate's affection, which was probably true. It hurt her more than I had intended to. And how exactly do you know he doesn't love you? She finally snapped, folding her arms across her chest. I raised a questioning eyebrow at her. Seriously? Do you need a soothsayer to tell you that? He was ready to marry the first silver wolf he came across. Which happens to be you, she said, rolling her eyes. I know, but... My voice suddenly dropped, as a strong feeling of jealousy coursed through me. What if it wasn't me? Lily scoffed, giving me the stink eye. I just can't be with you wolves and your senseless jealousy. It irritates the hell out of me. I pouted, suddenly feeling silly about my childish thoughts. The moon goddess obviously knew what she was doing when she took away my family and dumped me into Marcus's pack. But where I had a bone to pick with her, she hadn't considered my well-being in all of her plans. Thinking clearly about it, the position of Luna wasn't suitable for a classless nobody like me. I was born a free spirit, a wanderer, and I couldn't let myself be trapped with such huge responsibilities. Unacceptable. Lily gave me a nudge in the side of my stomach. What's on your mind, Chloe? Hope you aren't having any crazy ideas. Am I having any crazy ideas? Actually, I paused, giving her my best puppy eyes. I was wondering if you could help your best friend with a little information. She eyed me cautiously, her eyes narrowed infinitesimally. And what could that be? I gulped, getting a bit intimidated by her fierce look. I was wondering, how could someone unmate one's mate? And, she hissed, I was hoping you'd help me with that information, I squeaked out. This was me now, roaming the ballroom in the arms of my powerful alpha mate. I didn't want to, but my wolf wouldn't stop snapping my neck in his direction. I checked him out as discreetly as I could, and gods, he is handsome. It didn't help that he wouldn't take his eyes off me all night, checking me out shamelessly. His eyes were glued to my breasts most of the time, then they flickered over to my bare skin, where the slit had exposed my legs. I kept squirming in his arms, looking out for a way to escape, but his grip only tightened each time I made an attempt. By the end of the night, we'd greeted everyone in the hall, and I couldn't ignore the glares I received from other she-wolves. I glared back harder at the ones who were bold enough to try and put their hand on my mate. I'd even gone as far as growling at some of them. My wolf and I had a long talk about manipulation. She'd made me embarrass myself beyond all recognition. I couldn't wait for the night to be over. I'd made a promise to Lily that I would behave for tonight. Then she promised to teach me all about how to unmate my mate. Marcus's POV. The hall had almost emptied out. It was past midnight, and the other guests had started to retire for the night. My eyes flickered over to Chloe for the millionth time tonight, her beauty captivating me all over like the first time I set my eyes on her. She looked more restless now, staring around frantically as she searched the ballroom. Her actions were disturbing. The thoughts of her wanting to be away from me pulled at my heartstrings. Was this what it felt like for one's mate not to want them back? My wolf was at ease having her back with us. He was no longer restless, but kept telling me to mark her and make her ours. I knew I had to give her time to open up to me and get comfortable with me, but I wondered how long I'd be able to hold back. My whole body was on fire, and it was a tug of war trying to keep my excitement down. Her eyes suddenly met mine, and she shyly looked away. I could clearly see she found my body attractive. She kept checking me out when she thought I wasn't looking. It gave me a little hope. I had a point to buy my way into her heart. She was so little, her whole body would fit into my arms. I got busy all night glaring at the men who looked at her lustfully. If I could take her away from their eyes and somewhere where only I could look at her tempting body. She was all mine, my sexy little wolf. I bent to whisper in her ear, "Why are you so restless?" She tensed up, trying to move away like I'd just told her I ate teenage she-wolves for dinner. Me?" she inquired, turning to see if there was someone behind her. Her action unsettled me, but I gave her a forced smile. "It is you, Chloe. I'm talking to you," I replied. She faked a laugh. "Who is restless? Me?" She fake laughed some more, bringing an amused smile to my lips. She couldn't pretend for the life of her, even if she wanted to. "I am not restless at all. I love being in your company," says the person who's been trying to get away from me. She squirmed under my intense gaze. It almost seemed like she was intimidated by me, and for that, I couldn't blame her. My huge physique was quite intimidating on its own. I also didn't try to hide the fact that I wanted her in my bed and under me. That should have added to her discomfort. "Who are you looking for?" I asked in a husky voice, almost not recognizing my own voice. "The Beta Queen." "Lillian is quite busy. I'd seen her and Mark sneak out about an hour ago," I said in an amused tone. I had wanted to lessen the tension, but then she paled. Her eyes were wide in shock as she stared at me in disbelief. "Do you mean to tell me that Lily left me here all alone?" "You're here with me. You aren't alone." She gulped, giving me a stiff nod. Her whole body stiffened, fear coming off her like hot steams from a pot of scalding water. She tried to detach her arm from mine more forcefully this time, so I let her. She was angry. She had a deep frown plastered on her face and a look of betrayal. I groaned internally, wondering what offense Lily might have committed. "Are you okay?" I asked, keeping my voice as straight as I could. She shook her head negatively, turning to me with large green eyes. "Can I go home now? I feel so tired." I nodded, giving her a little smile. I saw how her lips slightly parted as she gasped softly. "Just give me a minute," I muttered. I quickly contacted Mark through the link, telling him how upset Chloe was at Lily. It wasn't up to a second when replied that it was a plan of theirs to buy me more time with Chloe. He said I could take her to my house, but begged that I let her return home with them tonight. As displeased as I was to let her go, I knew I had to if I wanted to gain her trust. I didn't want to crowd her space. I'd let her come to me when she was ready. I still had an hour with her, and I intended to not waste another second. I looked down at her, softly caressing her arm to get her attention. She turned to me, snatching her arm like I'd burnt her. "They are going to come get you," I said with a straight face. "Let's go over to my house. You can wait there." "Oh no, I can walk home on my own," she quickly declined. "That was an order," I said with finality. Her eyes were casted down. A sullen look graced her beautiful face. I tried to ignore it as I led her out of the ballroom and into one of my cars. Lima was my driver, and when he saw Chloe beside me, he began wiggling his eyebrows suggestively. "Fool," I mouthed at him as I tried not to smile. I pulled the door open, offering to help her, but she hopped in before I could. I ignored the clawing feeling of rejection and got in after her. Our 2 minutes ride to the royal house was spent in silence. Not once did she bother talking to me. She just kept looking out the window, obviously trying to avoid me. I grabbed her hand gently, leading her into the house. I started up the stairs, taking her to my room. She stiffened, her feet staying rooted to the ground when she saw my bedroom. "What's wrong? Where is this place?" I couldn't help the chuckle that slipped out of my throat. "It's my bedroom. Make yourself comfortable." "No, no." She turned around, beginning to head out the door, but I grabbed her back. "I will just wait in the living room." She wasn't ready for what I did next because she gasped, too shocked to even resist. I picked her up bridal style, crossed the room, and sat her on my bed. "You'll be more comfortable here," I whispered. I moved away from her and over to the dressing table at the corner of the room. I could feel her eyes on her and thought, why not give her something to look forward to? So I started by unbuttoning my jacket, taking it off, and dropping it on the table. I went on with my shirt, and once I'd undone all the buttons, I sluggishly pulled it to me, giving her a look at my muscular back. I could hear her heart rate picking up. She liked what she saw, obviously. I wouldn't mind showing her more, but she wasn't ready for me yet. I retained a straight face as I turned towards her, letting my eyes do the job. She squirmed, her legs tightening together as I eyed her body. When my eyes landed on her chest, she started battling with the material, trying to pull it up and hide herself from me. I grunted in disapproval, and her eyes widened as she climbed further into the bed. Was she scared of me? I went to move forward, but she yelled, halting my movements. "Stop right there, don't come any closer." I stared at her in confusion. Her eyes flickered down and I followed her movement. I wasn't able to hide my excitement. "Want to see?" I let out a little laugh when she squeaked, shaking her head in refusal. "Then, do you want to touch?" I teased further. She sighed. "Please get dressed. I want nothing to do with you," she said in a little voice. My heart squeezed, the pain of her words hurting deeper than I thought they ever will. "You'll be seeing more of me with lesser or no clothes at all, so better get used to it," I snapped, walking out of the room. My wolf growled, wanting me to go back in there to her. He was such a selfish boy, using my body for his selfish gains. "How could you have a teenager for a mate? Don't you think she's too young?" "I don't mind at all. You also don't mind." "Well, I do mind, actually." "Liar," my wolf teased. "You know her age wouldn't be a problem any longer. We are totally whipped, bro." I snorted, but didn't argue back. I really wanted us to work out, but she kept pushing me away, and I couldn't take that. I wished she could stay the night, but I knew better. Quickly contacting Marcus, I asked that they waste no time and come get her out of my house. It was up to a minute when he replied, and in 3 minutes, I could sense them close. It seemed like they'd ran all the way here because I could hear their pants and footsteps. Fucking idiots. Why were they in such a hurry? I turned around when my bedroom door flung open and Chloe started to descend the stairs and ran towards the door. She walked right into Lily's arms as they came in. She had sensed them approaching. "I'm so scared," she whispered to Lily. "Let's get out of here." I ignored her, saying my thanks to Mark and Lily. I turned my attention back to her, and now she was hiding behind Lily, like that would eradicate her presence in the room. I knew she'd notice if I spoke, so I signaled for Lily to move aside. She grabbed on quickly, moving into Mark's arm with a smile on her face. Before Chloe could realize what was happening, I was before her. Her eyes widened in surprise as I grabbed the back of her head and planted my lips to hers. She didn't kiss back, but didn't push me away. She then gave a sexy moan, which heightened my excitement. I smiled, finally releasing her. "Good night, sweetheart." Without waiting for a reply, I walked away from them and towards my bedroom, a satisfied grin plastered on my face. Chloe's POV. I could feel Lily's hawk-like gaze on me as she scrutinized me. I knew she wanted to ask about the alpha, but I kept a straight face, wanting to delay her questions as much as I could. He'd kissed me. My lips kept tingling from where our lips had collided, and my horror of a wolf wouldn't stop reminding me of it. I was mad at him for putting his lips on me without my permission. "Are you really mad?" But I was more mad at my wolf for coaxing me into making a fool of myself 1,000,000 times tonight. I can't believe she made me moan out when he kissed me. The most annoying part was the proud smirk on his face when he released me from his breathtaking kiss. I scowled when it occurred to me that I couldn't think of anything else but him. Alpha Marcus. He had successfully snuck his way into my mind, and it was frustrating the hell out of me. We had reached home now. Mark unlocked the door, and we all went in. Without waiting for Lily to say a word, I ran into my room and locked the door behind me. She followed immediately. She turned the doorknob, and when she realized it was locked, she kept banging on the door, but I ignored her. "Chloe? Chloe? Open this door now." I pulled the dress off my body, then next I took off my jewelry and slammed them on the table. Grabbing some makeup wipes Lily left on my dressing table, I started cleaning off the makeup on my face. "Chloe Tristan, open this door right now because I wish to speak with you." "Get lost," I yelled back. I dumped the wipes in the trash can, unhooked and took off my bra. I went over to my closet and pulled out a red satin mid-thigh night dress and wore it over my naked skin. I heard Mark telling Lily to cut me some slack and go to bed with him. I couldn't help rolling my eyes when I heard them kissing, and soon, the door to their bedroom slammed shut. I had to force myself to sleep, or there'll be no sleep for me tonight. I scoffed when I started hearing their regular screams and moans, my vampire hearing ability not helping because it sounded like they were right next to me in my bed. That thought gave rise to another, and I wondered what it would be like if I had Marcus beside me right now. Will he have his way with me, or will he let me be ready for him? Will I give in to his seduction? Suddenly, my thought shifted to earlier. I could still feel his lust-filled eyes on me, like he was in the room right now. I flung my head back against the pillow as I felt my desire with my fingers, Marcus never getting off my mind. My eyes fluttered open, and I felt it again. We're experiencing heat, sis. Shit! I totally forgot the part where I get into heat after meeting my mate for the first time. It's no wonder I'd been feeling these lustful desires all night. It started as a dream, but everything happened out here. Only the one who caused them that was missing. That meant trouble, serious trouble for me and my body. It obviously wasn't a problem for my wolf. If anything, she was horny and excited. I got up, took some clean cloth, and cleaned myself up. I groaned when the feeling swirled in my stomach again. As I got dressed, it took everything in me to fight not running back to the royal house and beg Alpha Marcus to take me. My body craved him, wanted him, but the problem was, I didn't. I wasn't ready to be with him. Hell, I had intentions on declining his offer, and Lily had promised to teach me how to unmate. I had to get out of the house quick before those sleepyheads awoke. They'd been up for most of the night. It was going to take a while before they awoke. As I'd been educated at wolf school, the pleasurable urges lasted just a few hours before they turned excruciating. At that point, I become uncontrollable. I'll lay with any man that came my way, and that could be a threat to the bond. I couldn't meet another man, and also, I refused to lie with him. I was going to go away for a few days until it passes, then I'll be back home. I forgot how it worked. I couldn't recall if my mate got to feel it too or I carry the cross alone. I picked up the new body spray Lily had acquired but left on my table and sprayed a good quantity on myself. That way, it was going to distract anyone trying to sniff me out off my scent. I was going to sneak out through the door, but decided against it. Mark would be able to pick up my scent and movements quickly. So rather, I climbed out through my window, folding to protect my head as my back hit the ground. I got on my feet, dusting the dirt off my brown cardigan. I started walking fastly, checking to see if anyone was watching. Once I was sure the coast was clear, I zoomed with vampire speed, moving past the trees in a flash. As I approached the heart of the forest, I levitated into the trees, my speed increasing as I hopped from tree to tree. Soon, I saw the boundaries. I descended, lowering my body onto the floor. My body began to heat up as my temperature rose. I was always ice cold in the winter and a little warm in the summer, but it was different. It felt like my demon had been removed out of my body and my wolf had taken over completely. For the first time, I felt like I was a full werewolf, and my body definitely agreed because it had rid me of all my coldness. For the first time ever, my wolf had overpowered my demon when it came to dominating over my temperature. My demon always won, and I was always so cold, but the palm of my hands were always warm. I knew it was the heat causing it, but I still felt scared. It worried me if I had lost a part of myself. I couldn't stand losing either my demon or wolf. I loved them both equally. I was just taking in the pleasure, naughty thoughts of a particular alpha beginning to cloud my mind. A searing pain shot through me, and I let out an ear-shattering scream. I quickly slammed my palm against my lips as I realized what I'd done. I hadn't intended to scream that loud, but the pain had been too severe. It only worsened as the second ticked by and I started sobbing. My sobs got louder, and soon I was wailing. To hell with heat, period, and back. No one had told me it was so painful. Why the hell did I have to meet my mate again? Couldn't the moon goddess have paired him with someone else? My tears cascaded down my cheeks as I tried to hold in the screams that were itching to come out. I gave another earth-shattering scream, not being able to hold it in any longer. It continued that way, second after seconds, minute after minutes, hour after hours, and the pain only increased. At some point, I'd thought I was going to die. I was lying on my stomach, eyes closed, and lips slightly parted as I took in little breaths to see if it'd help with the pain. That was as helpful as a wolf and vampire becoming best friends. I managed a little chuckle, recalling that I was a hybrid of both races because my mother and father had mated. It was funny to imagine the wonders the mate bond could do. I let out another scream when the intense pain struck again, my body shaking with every sob. I cried out loud, looking for some help. I wished I could call out to Lily, but I wasn't permitted to cut through the pack's link yet. I had to wait for over a year. My body was weak, as well my wolf. She was mad at me for putting us through torture just because it couldn't accept our mate. I had no will to argue her. Neither did I have the strength. I just wanted to close my eyes and get away from all the pain and drama. My eyes were starting to flutter shut when I sensed a presence approaching. My senses weren't stable enough, but I would recognize that scent anywhere. I heard him yell out my name, and knowing help had come, I finally gave into the dizziness and my body went limp. Chloe's POV. Warmth. That was what I felt as I began regaining consciousness. My back rested against something soft and fluffy. I could almost say I was in a bed. A soft purr escaped my lips as I unknowingly caressed the soft sheets in between my fingers. My mind was blank, and I tried to recall what had happened. I was horned up as hell and had thoughts of jumping my mate. I ran out of the house because I didn't want to run to the aforementioned. Then the pleasures turned into excruciating pains and I passed out. And then what? As if in response to my question, I heard a door open and someone got in the room. My whole body stiffened when I got a whiff of his scent. I gulped hard, pressing my eyes tighter as I refused to open them to meet reality. I had to be dreaming. Why was I in a room alone with him? Why was there no more pain? What exactly had happened? Had I slept with Hetch? I gasped when I felt the cool breeze sneak in through the door and caress my naked skin. I am, officially, dead. A sigh escaped his lips. I know you're awake, Chloe. You can stop pretending to be asleep. I snapped one eye open before slowly opening the other. I took in his tired form, and it looked like he hadn't gotten any sleep all night. "What are you doing here?" I inquired. He raised an eyebrow at me, then scoffed. "This is my room. I can come in whenever I please." Then, the question should be, what am I doing here? "So much appreciation for not leaving you alone and dead out in the woods," he rolled his eyes, walking towards me. My hands quickly shot out from under the blankets as I hugged it tighter to my body. He raised his hands up in a form of surrender. "It's okay, sweetheart. I have no intentions of touching you." I eyed him suspiciously. He took a couple of steps back, his eyes never leaving mine. "If you have no intentions of touching me, why am I naked?" I was a bit embarrassed and also nervous. I really hoped we hadn't done the forbidden, or we were both done for. I needed him to tell me that I hadn't made him do something stupid. "We needed to take care of your condition," he replied unashamedly. My mouth dropped open as I stared at him in shock. I felt sick in the stomach. Did we, you know?" I stuttered, looking at him with hopeful eyes. I needed some sort of assurance, and I needed him to give me that immediately. He stared at me with a blank expression before replying, "No." I released the breath I hadn't realized I was holding, until the fact that I was butt naked under his blankets crossed my mind. And just as if he'd read my thoughts, he raised a finger, silencing me before I could even ask. I didn't have sex with you. You kept throwing yourself at me, but as the gentle wolf I am, I refused to be taken advantage of. A giggle escaped my lips, and he smiled back. You're only naked because you needed to receive treatment. He should have picked on the look of disbelief on my face, because he quickly added, My maid actually took care of you. She has this lotion that can suspend the heat until your mate comes. I nodded in appreciation. I still felt uncomfortable that I was naked underneath these sheets, and I had some man standing so close to me. I was going to tell him to go out when an angry roar met my ears. Marcus. My wolf's ears perked up, and she began bouncing excitedly as he approached. Titus took that as his cue to leave. He said a quick goodbye as he shifted into his red wolf and jumped out of the window. Just then, the doors were slammed open with a force that left a loud bang. Marcus stormed in, his chest heaving with every breath he took. I shivered when I saw his eyes had turned completely black and his pupils were dilated. He looked around furiously, and I think we both knew who he was looking for. His eyes finally landed on me, and he began growling. I sank deeper into the bed, cautiously shifting backwards as he walked towards me slowly. My eyes shifted to the fist that was tightly clenched at his side, and for a minute there, I wondered if he was going to hit me. He'd better not, because I won't sit back and watch. My wolf sneered at my thoughts in displeasure, but I ignored her. She could go ahead and take his side, but I was not about to allow some love-sick wolf coax me into getting abused. I growled back, when he wouldn't stop either. He finally came to stop in front of me. His eyes started adjusting back to their normal bluish gray, and they softened instantly. The next emotions that surfaced in them got my cheeks heating up. His eyes raked my body lustfully, and they came to settle on my chest. Why are you naked in my Gamma's bed? My eyes shot up to his, and I noticed they'd started turning black again. He had a murderous glare on his face, and the muscles in his cheeks kept twitching. Answer me. Oh my. I fought the urge to place my hand on my chest. What a scary mate I found for myself. I took a deep breath, readying myself for another round of tantrums. Relax, he only wanted to help. Help, he scoffed, shaking his head. Help with what exactly? I had an urge to roll my eyes at him, but the way I was seeing it, it would do me good if I do not anger him any further. He looked ready to kill, and I was too young to die. Why did you let another man put his hands on you? I was experiencing heat, I snapped, beginning to get irritated with his jealousy. I passed out from the intensity of the pain, then Titus saved me and brought me over here to be treated. Marcus stared at me for a while. A flicker of hurt appeared in his eyes, but then vanished like it hadn't been there in the first place. I don't know why, but I suddenly felt the urge to take him in my arms and tell him everything was fine now he was here. He didn't utter a word. He just stood there, staring at me for a few minutes, then turned around and walked out the door. I didn't get a minute to understand what had just occurred, when the pains resurfaced and my body temperature rose. I clutched my lower abdomen, groaning in pain as the feeling intensified. I think whatever medicine Titus had used on me, he wore out the moment Marcus was close enough to me. I looked around to see if I'd find anything. My eyes landed on a tin brown bottle, which I grabbed and hurriedly pulled off the lid. I took a mouthful of the syrup, and just immediately, the pains started to ease gradually. I leaned back into the bed, the pains quickly leaving my body. I knew I had to get ready and leave before my possessive mate returned. His presence only made the feelings resurface. I pulled the blankets away, staring at my body. Getting to my feet, I searched around for a dress, but only found a yellow t-shirt and my jeans. I pulled the shirt over my head and put on the trousers. Just as I was starting to get comfortable again, I sensed him approaching, and the burning sensation returned. The door slammed open again, and he walked in. Get dressed. We're going home right now. He pulled the blankets off me, his eyes appreciating my body once more before picking me up in his arms. I let out a yelp in surprise, but he didn't seem to care. I wrapped an arm around his neck to give me support as he took me out of the bedroom. Soon we were outside. He took me over to what I guessed was his car. He dropped me gently on one of the seats like I was some fragile doll. Then he gave instructions for the Omega to take me to his house. I was just going to ask if he wouldn't be coming, when he turned away from me and walked in the opposite direction. It did hurt a little that he wouldn't even look at me. I wonder what was going through that head of his. My wolf had suddenly gone quiet, which was too suspicious. It's like she knew something that I didn't. I could feel my demon brooding in a corner of my mind. She wasn't pleased about the whole mate thing and was definitely feeling left out. I had to find a balance. I couldn't get my demon depressed at a time when I needed her to keep me in control. My head felt like it was going to blow off any minute with all the thoughts running through my mind. The car made a screeching sound, then came to a halt. I looked out the window to see we had reached the royal house. Before the Omega could open the door for me, I let myself out and started moving towards the house. Just as I got to the entrance, the doors parted open and I stepped in. There were servants lined up on either side of me, and they greeted in a chorus, "Welcome home, Luna Chloe. We're happy to finally meet you." I nodded speechlessly, the feeling of dread coursing through me. It was beginning to look like reality. At some point, I made myself believe that it was all a prank and will pass with time. I could never be Luna. I felt like screaming back at them. My demon, who would have been up and encouraging me to run away as far away as I could, had shifted to the back of my mind. She believed I didn't care about her enough to put her in harm's way, but that wasn't true. How exactly does someone run away from a mate such as mine? I followed the maid who led me over to his bedroom, ignoring her as my thoughts took over. I had to figure out a balance. I had to do what was best for the three of us. Marcus's POV. I slammed the door, not minding if I scared her. I couldn't stop grinding my teeth as I marched towards the training grounds. I could hear the soldiers' grunts and shouts as they trained, and I tried to single out Titus's scent, but it was absent. The coward had run away, instead of facing me like the man he was. I was going to find him one way or another, and I'll squash his bones. I pulled my shirt over my head and dumped it on the ground. Walking right into the ring, I shoved one of the soldiers away and readied myself to wrestle the other, but he backed away. They'd all stopped to bow when they sensed me, but the warning glare on my face was clear enough that I had no interest in exchanging pleasantries. Titus's second-in-command came forward and gave a deep bow. "Welcome, Alpha. What brings you to our training grounds?" "Where is that weasel?" I spat in an authoritative voice. Confusion crept onto his face as he eyed me cautiously. Alpha? Your eyes are turning black," he stated. I roared at him. "Immediately you see Titus, tell him to come see me, otherwise there'll be hell to pay." I turned around and stomped away from them. I marched back towards the house. All his servants shuddered and hid away as I ascended up the stairs and towards the room where Chloe was kept. I got angrier as I got closer. It killed me to think that Titus had seen my girl naked. I had just woken up when I heard a loud bang on my room door. I immediately got a whiff of Lima's scent, and I called him in. He rushed in, picking up my shirt and throwing it at me. "What's the fuss about?" I asked. "I've got information." He looked worried, and that piqued my concern. "What do you know about the heat period in a she-wolf?" I stared at him in confusion because I had no idea what he was talking about. I was just going to ask when a thought crossed my mind. My heart leapt and I sat up immediately, getting ready to climb out of bed. "Is Chloe all right?" "Relax, bro. Answer the question." "Is she on heat?" "That doesn't answer the quest." "Damnation!" I interjected. "Just tell me already, what happened?" Lima stared at me with shocked eyes. "Whoa, chill. Spare the anger until you hear what I've got to tell you." I rubbed a hand over my face, trying to calm myself. I was just a few seconds from smacking him in the face. "You know I'm not well known for my patience. Whatever it is you want to say, out with it." Heat is the period after a werewolf sees her mate and she really wants to do and she gets all horny and wet and craving and bothered. "I know what heat is. Get to the fucking point, you idiot." Okay, I'm getting to it already." He took a deep breath, keeping his face bare of any emotions, but I could still spot the amusement dancing in his eyes. "Chloe got into heat and—" I sat up straighter, trying to sniff her out. It's normal that she comes to me first, but I didn't sense her presence. I stared at the open door, imagining she'd walk in any time soon and throw herself at me, begging me to have her. screaming out my name as I gave her an unforgettable amount of pleasure, is with Titus. That seemed to bring back my attention to whatever Lima was saying. I'd got caught up in my feelings, and I hadn't been listening to whatever it was he had said. "What did you say?" He gulped, his eyes darting all over the room but not meeting mine. I could feel the nervousness radiating off him, and that was good, because I'll have his head if Titus as much as lays a finger on my girl. I said, "Chloe's with Titus," he repeated. I was out the door in a flash, Lima following hot on my trails. "You were to watch over her, but you let her go to him? How dare you?" "I'm sorry, Alpha. I don't know how it happened." "You're not sorry yet. You will be by the time I'm done dealing with you." I snapped back. That was how I ended up in my Gamma's room to find my mate in his bed, naked. It made me proud to see her body react to me like that, even without touching her. I could have gotten in beside her and made love to her senselessly, but the fact that I could still sense Titus's lingering scent in the room was enough to drive me crazy. With her being naked and not even in pain like she's supposed to, wasn't helping the anger in me. She hadn't slept with him, that I was certain of. If she had, my wolf would have been affected by it. But still, she'd not come to me. Rather, she went to Titus. I had to send her home. I couldn't trust anyone to take care of her for me like I would. They were all unreliable. Mark still had to answer to me. He'd explain how Chloe got out of his house and into Titus's bed. One simple task, and they all failed. I cut through the connection link, asking Lima to bring the car over and have the servants prepare for Chloe's arrival. She'd put on some clothes when I went into the room again. I lifted her into my arms. She didn't resist, but rather clinged on to me, and that gave me some sort of hope. I wanted to yell at her, scold her for being so careless and thoughtless, but that could wait. "What was that for?" Mark yelled, clutching his bleeding nose where I'd just dropped a punch. I grabbed his shirt, shoving him backwards until his back collided with the wall. "Why be so violent? At least tell me what I did." The nerve of him. I landed another punch to his side before letting him go, and he dropped to the ground. It was a good thing that I'd sent Lily over to the house to keep Chloe some company. I didn't want her seeing all the things I intended to do to her mate. She'd fret and tell Chloe. "You idiot! I can't believe I entrusted Chloe to you." He coughed up some blood and spat on the floor. He looked disheveled as he panted for breath while eyeing me angrily. "All I've done is take care of her." "Why did you let her leave the house this morning? How was I to know she snuck out?" "That's Chloe for you. Nobody can stop her from wandering about, not even her best friend." I glared hard at him, giving him the stink eye. "Don't yell back at me. You were given just one assignment, and you failed woefully. How do you expect me to believe that you didn't have it all planned out with Titus?" I asked, passing him a suspicious glare. His anger gave way for confusion as he eyed me cautiously. "Where does Titus fit into all these? I told you I'll keep him away, and that's exactly what I've been trying to do." A humorless chuckle escaped my lips. "Do you know where I found my mate today?" He shook his head no. "I found her in Titus's bed," I added. His eyes widened as he stared at me in disbelief. "No way," he muttered under his breath. "Chloe would never do something like that. She never liked Titus. However, she's not happy to have you as her mate, but she'd never do something like that." I growled, hating that he mentioned her not wanting me. "It's Titus I don't trust," I snapped. "I've had enough of his nonsense, and I expect you as my beta to bring him to me." He nodded, and I heaved a sigh in partial satisfaction. I ordered him to do it discreetly and make sure that Lillian doesn't take notice. She'd rush over to Chloe and run her big mouth, which was something I wanted to avoid. I needed to find out what she was doing in Titus's bed when she was supposed to be in mine. It would be the wrong time to make her feel pressured. My next stop was at Lima's. We had a little chit-chat to have before I finally went home to my queen. I knew he'd sensed me because I could already perceive the fear emitting from him. His power was so weak and mine so superior that I could almost read his thoughts. "Lima?" I yelled at the top of my voice. "Come out here this minute." It took a minute before he came out from where he was hiding. I hid a clenched fist behind my back, waiting for him to get close enough. He moved hesitant towards me with a fake smile on his face. Hi, Alpha, so good to see you. And as you guessed, I reciprocated his greetings with a hard blow in the face. He fell to the ground, shifting away from me. To hell with you and your hi. Get your ass up, we got some talking to do. Chloe's POV. What to wear now? I thought as I rummaged through the clothes the maids had provided me with. I even had a hot bath prepared for me when I came in, and it felt hard to resist after all I'd experienced today. I made myself comfortable while Marcus was not around, picking out the most modest piece of clothing which I could find, which happened to be a see-through gray nightdress and a pair of lace lingerie. I got dressed and then arranged my hair. Just as I exited the bathroom, there came a knock on the bedroom door. Lily. A wide smile broke out on my face as I rushed towards the door. I pulled it open to come face to face with my best friend. Without waiting for her to say a word, I wrapped my arms around her and enveloped her in a hug. "Oh, Chloe," she muttered in between chuckles. "I can't breathe." I giggled softly, finally freeing her from my hold. I pulled her in and over the bed, forward, ignoring her many questions of where I'd been and why I left the house without informing anyone. "I'm so happy to see you, Lily. I've been so alone and scared," I whined, the past events of the day finally weighing on me. I'd been dying to talk to her about it all, but I couldn't leave the house as my mate placed guards all over the place. "Yeah," Marcus said the same thing. She passed me a naughty smirk, pulling me down on the king-sized bed. "So, you now sneak out of the house, go to see your mate, and don't tell your best friend about it." "I didn't come to him." She gave me a dismissive look. "Enough with the pretense. Give me the tea, girl. What was he like? Is he big down there?" I gave her a look of disbelief. "You really should become a porn star in your next life. It really does suit you," I snapped, giving her a look of disgust, which she laughed off. "I'm experiencing heat." She sat up straighter, suddenly getting far too interested in the conversation than I'd want her to. She giggled, bouncing in excitement. "So did you get down to it? What was he like? Was he gentle, rough, insatiable?" "Lillian, what? Can you just stop? Is sex all you think about?" She rolled her eyes, giving me a shrug. "I actually sneaked out because I didn't want to sleep with him," I muttered with a pout. She gave me a straight look before muttering quietly, "Oh." I rolled my eyes when I saw the unimpressed look on her face. She eyed me boringly, then asked with a gesture of her hand, "Then, why are you here?" "Well," I took my lower lip in between my teeth as I picked my words carefully. "I went unconscious and ended up naked." I watched her expression to see if she'd react, but she maintained a straight face. In Titus's bed. Lily choked on her saliva. I spent the next 2 to 3 minutes patting her back as she kept coughing every time she tried to speak. Finally, the coughing ceased. "You did what?" "Relax, Lily, it's not what you think." Okay, she inhaled dramatically. "I am relaxed, and I want you to tell me how you ended up naked in Titus's bed." After a good 1 hour of arguing with Lily, if Titus had taken advantage of my state and stripped me off my clothes to yield his perverted desires, or if my clothes were really taken off by his maid to give me some medicine for my pain, she finally agreed that he was innocent and decided that we figured out a way to save him from decapitation. I'd say, "You seduce Marcus, give the pie to him well, then beg him to spare Titus's life." She shrugged like that was the easiest thing to do. I wouldn't be seducing anyone, I wouldn't be sleeping with anyone, and I'd just tell Marcus the truth. Lily regarded me with mocking eyes. "All right, Virgin Mary, let's do just that. Only, I have a suggestion." "And I don't want to hear it." "If you know my best friend well enough, you'd know she suggested anyway. If you bang Marcus, you'd be satisfying your urges and also making it easier for him to listen." "No, ma'am. I'm asking him to unmate me, remember?" She shrugged. "Who cares? You can still have and unmate him, either way, and you still win, girl." "You are disgusting." She laughed, wiggling her eyebrows suggestively. I really love my best friend, but times like this made me want to murder her. She knows what ticks me off, and she never hesitates to push my buttons. "That aside," she said, reaching for her handbag, "I brought you a little something, because I knew you'd need it, but wouldn't be able to ask." For the first time in the day, my demon surfaced, exposing her fangs once the smell of blood reached my nose. "Lily, pull out a bag of blood. and I quickly snatched it from her and started sipping on it. Lily gave me an irritated look. "Slow down, monster. It's only blood and not apple juice." I chose to ignore her. Once I was done with the first bag, she handed me a second, and this time I took my time to sip it. "Thank you, Lily. I really needed some blood," she nodded. "I know, that's why I brought those alongside your things." I paused on the sipping, swallowed the liquid that was already in my mouth before raising my eyes to meet hers. "What are you talking about?" She sighed, a dark look crossing over her face. My heart dropped into my stomach as I suspected the next words she was about to say. "Marcus asked for your things to be brought over. You're moving in with him," she said quietly. I shook my head as I stared at her in disbelief. "What right does he have to do that?" "He has every right, Chloe. He does. Unacceptable. I wasn't about to allow some power-hungry alpha mate of mine turn me into a puppet." "I'm not staying here," I said, grabbing Lily by the hand and pulling her towards the door. "Let's run out of here as fast as we can before he gets back." I just stuffed the remaining bag of blood into Lily's bag, and I ran back to the closet to take out some clothes the maids had offered me. Slipping off the see-through nightie, I got so occupied trying to escape that it clouded my senses. I didn't feel his presence until he wrapped his arms around my waist and leaned in to whisper in my ear, "Going somewhere?" My body stilled alongside the blood coursing through my veins. I held my breath as he stroked my hair gently, moving it to the side. I hadn't sensed you, Key. Come in," I stuttered, hating how my voice came out trembling. He chuckled, and it vibrated against my neck as he lowered his lips to my neck. My eyes fluttered shut on their own accord as he sucked on the flesh there. "I have a special gift. I can hide a scent if I wanted to," he replied in a husky voice. My wolf moaned, making me bite hard against my lip. She had a way of making me embarrass myself. I started to move away from him, but he held on tightly, his assaults on my neck and breasts only growing stronger. "Marcus, let go of me," I pleaded. It was hard recognizing my own voice. It was so clouded with excitement, and I feared that my worst fears would come true if I didn't fight it. "We have company. Please let go." His hands slowly explored my body until they came to rest on my hips. "I don't want you to take a step out of this room," he whispered again. "I want you waiting when I get out of the shower. Understood?" I nodded unconsciously. He finally released me, and I picked up the transparent nightdress and ran out of the closet, only to meet Lily by the door. "Leaving already?" She gave me a knowing smirk, her eyes checking out my half-naked body. I quickly pulled the dress over my body to conceal as much as I could. "If I were a lesbian, I totally would do you with those heavy mounts on your chest." I heard Marcus chuckle from the bathroom, and though Lily couldn't hear him, but still my cheek heated up. "Don't say such absurd things. Nobody is doing anybody," I scolded. She let out a little laugh. "Good luck with not getting your brains fucked out tonight," she said in a flat voice. "I'm going home to get some. We can finally do it on the kitchen counter as you wouldn't be around to impose on us." I rushed after her as she stepped out into the corridor, but before I could ask her not to leave, she slammed the door in my face, shutting me in the room with mate. Wasn't it wonderful to have such a friend who cared so deeply about you? Not knowing what else to do, I slumped on the bed, pulling the blankets over me. I had to conceal as much as I could, and if he saw nothing to get him all horned up, he'd probably leave me be. That plan only lasted until Marcus stepped out of the bathroom, stark naked. Marcus's POV. The sky rumbled as the clouds began to get dark. When some pack were going into war with another, the skies always did the funny thing to show us that the gods didn't approve of us killing each other. If only the gods knew better, they'd take away all the things that made us lose our minds and want to fight to retain what's ours. Just like I'd kill everything that stood in the way of me getting to Chloe. I sighed in contentment when I heard Lily slam the door. I was mad at her earlier for not looking out for Chloe, and I thought she was in on a plan with Titus to take my girl away from me. Once again, she proved her loyalty to me. Only I wondered if she wouldn't regret her actions once she saw the decorations I'd done on her mate's face. I'd left a couple of bruises and a busted lip. I tilted my head to the side as the warm water cascaded down my body. I could hear Chloe sniffing softly, and it broke my heart to know I'd caused her tears. If only I wasn't too selfish to let her go. I strained my ears, and that was when I heard the quiet sobbing. She was crying so quietly that I wouldn't have heard her if I wasn't paying attention. Was I that repulsive to her? Couldn't she accept her destiny and give us a chance? It worried me gravely that she would never learn to love me. The least she could do was accept me, and her constant rejection was beginning to get to me. The worst part of it all was, she was trying to escape when she got into heat, all because she didn't want to be with me. Was this what unrequited love felt like? It really did suck for real. My thoughts floated back to earlier. I'd just stepped into my palace when I heard Chloe whispering to Lillian. I quickly hid my scent, getting close enough so I could listen in on what she was saying. That was an ability not very common amongst werewolves, but I was gifted mine the day I was born. A witch, who had been a friend of my mother at the time, came to see me, and she gave me 3 gifts, one being the ability to hide my scent. Chloe narrated how she was horned up all night, her escape and the pain she had to go through, and Titus, how he saved her and took her over to his house. I felt even angrier that I couldn't break his limbs like I'd intended to, but I was also glad that he hadn't tried to take advantage of Chloe. I had to scatter the party, when Chloe panicked and asked that they escape, when Lily told her that I was moving her things over to my place. I had to hold back a chuckle. She had no idea yet that I wasn't letting her out of my sight ever again. I surprised Lily when I entered the room, and she was going to scream, but I silenced her with a gesture of my finger to my lips. She nodded, then I went past her and after Chloe. She'd just taken off whatever dress she had on and was standing in only a pair of lacy lingerie. She busied herself as she rummaged through some clothes, and all I could stare at were her delicious ass and wide hips. I gulped, my tongue darting out to lick my lips. My wolf urged me to go to her, and I did, snaking my arms around her tiny waist. Her body stiffened, but I ignored her and lowered my lips onto her neck that kept seeking my attention. My canines started itching to appear, my wolf wanting to mark his mate without delay, but I knew it wasn't the right time to do so. I fought relentlessly, busying myself in sucking rather than biting. I wanted her to come to me on her own, to trust that I'd be able to protect her and give her a better life. She'd been through a lot at such a young age, and I wasn't sure if she was ready to accept anyone into her life, but it was all worth the wait. I'd wait forever, if it'd take that much for her to finally see me. I released her, and she hurriedly ran out of the room, making me laugh at her shyness. I immediately stripped off my clothes and got into the shower. I tried to wash up as fast as I could, getting excited to get back to Chloe. By the time I was done, she'd gone all quiet, and if not for the quick drumming of her heartbeats, I would have thought she was no longer in my bedroom. I picked up a big towel and started wrapping it around my waist, but then I decided against it and thought to give my mate a not-so-little surprise. I walked out of the bathroom and into the bedroom. Just as I'd expected, Chloe sat with her back resting against the headboard and the blankets high up to her chin. "You could take a picture, you know, that'd last longer," I mocked. Her eyes immediately shot up to mine, and then she looked away. "You really are disgusting. Please put some clothes on," she tried to say in a firm voice, which rolled out in a weak tone. "Wah!" I exclaimed, faking surprise. "Says the one who couldn't take her eyes off my some seconds ago." "I wasn't looking," she whined, avoiding eye contact with me as much as possible. "I was only shocked that you came out all naked, you know." It felt good watching her try so hard to prove that she didn't find my body attractive. Not wanting to torture her any further, I walked over to the other side of the bed and got under the covers. Chloe quickly shot out of bed, wide green eyes staring at me in utter confusion. "What are you doing?" I gave her a blank look. "Getting into bed to have a chat with you." She scoffed in disbelief. "That doesn't seem like it to me. You're practically naked." So I shrugged. "I prefer to stay naked in the comforts of my sheets." A soft gasp escaped her lips, and I knew I hit the right spot. She'd gotten the secret message I tried to put across, which made me realize something. My baby was not completely innocent as she looked. I waved towards the bed, gesturing for her to get back in, but she blatantly refused to comply. I'm not getting in beside you unless to put on some clothes. Her chest heaved as she spoke, and I couldn't help but run my eyes over her. She was in a see-through nightdress which stopped just below her ass, and I knew she was not aware that I could see all of her right now. My eyes flickered back to her face, and I could see the rejection in her eyes, while her body language told me a different thing. Her body wanted me, but she didn't. I don't know how she manages to do it, but in the few hours we've met, she'd managed to provoke me more than most people in my life. So, I started in a calm voice. You can't get into bed just because I'm naked, but you felt comfortable being naked in Titus's bed? I asked, my voice coming out harsher than I had intended. The look of hurt that crossed her face made me want to take back my words, but it was too late. She shook her head, her eyes watering as she took a step back. You really think the worst of me, don't you? Sweetheart, I'm sorry, I apologized, sitting up to pull her to me, but she moved farther away from me. I did not sleep with him, she snapped. I nodded, assuring her that I knew that little detail. I felt like an idiot for hurting her due to my jealousy and insecurity, until she said, and I would not be sleeping with you either. Oh, you will, sweetheart, I retorted, giving her a warning glare. I will have you as I please, and you will come begging for more once I am done with you. I could see the excitement dancing in her eyes, but then her face morphed into an expression of disgust. I can't stand you. I kept silent. I feel sick just being around you. Please let me go. I remained silent, keeping my face bare of any emotion as I looked her dead in the eye. I hate you so much. I'd rather die than be with a beast like you. She turned around and started heading towards the door. I moved swiftly, and before she realized, I pulled her back and had her under me in a matter of seconds. Let go of me, you pig! I looked down at her as she panted quickly, her chest heaving with every breath she took. Why don't we see just how much you hate me, sweetheart? I said. Chloe's POV. Let go of me, you pig. His eyes had lost their bright blue color and had adjusted to a dark blue. Why don't we see just how much you hate me, sweetheart? He said. His hands rose to my chest, and I held my breath when he ripped my nightdress in two. I gasped, moving fast to grab his hand. No, please, not there, I pleaded. He started rubbing me slowly, and the grip on his hand started to loosen. I don't want this. He ignored me. I would ignore me too, with how weak my voice came off. It sounded like I didn't want him to stop, or was that the case? A deep groan left him as he felt the warmth of my heat. It felt strange feeling that way, and I struggled to move away from him. What are you doing to me? I stuttered. Shh, he cooed. His lips went to my ear, nipping on my earlobe. Relax, my love. I want to make you feel good. And oh, did I relax? It was like my whole body was on fire, and he had the extinguisher to put me off. My whole body craved him, and the more he touched me, the more I wanted. My hands moved on their own because I definitely didn't reach for him, did I? I grabbed the back of his head, trying to move with his speed and return the kiss with as much fervor as him. He broke the kiss, chuckling when I huffed in annoyance. Honestly, I didn't know if to find that sexy or disgusting. I laid there trying to catch my breath. I panted heavily, my body feeling drained after the little activity with Marcus, who stared up at me with glassy eyes. He had so many emotions in them, and I couldn't look away even though I wanted to. My wolf struggled to reach out to her mate, and it took everything in me not to reach down and caress his face. I looked away, not knowing what to say in reply. Go to sleep, you'll feel better by the morning. I yelped when he flipped over, bringing the upper part of my body to rest on him. I let my body relax, moving deeper into his side. My eyes began to close, and I allowed myself as sleep took over. Shit! 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 Just like a bomb, the thought ticked off in my head, and I paled, my body stilling all over. I tried to sense if Marcus was in the room, but that was impossible because the whole mansion smelled like him. I carefully opened my eyes, rolling them to the side where Marcus had been before I fell asleep. Empty. I looked around, up careful not to make a sound, and I noticed he wasn't in the bedroom. I quickly sat up, grabbing my head as it started to ache. This had to be the biggest mess-up of the century. How dare me let him touch me like that? Well, that wasn't what you were thinking with all the moaning and screaming and wanting more. Uh, okay now. I truly love my wolf with all of my soul, but sometimes I can't help the urge of wanting to strangle her to the death. She had a way of making me misbehave, just like she did a few hours ago. What to do? What to do? I had to get out of here before he returned. It was not too late to get things right. I could still unmate him and move on with my life, since we hadn't done any part of the mating process, right? Right. No reply. Why are you both so quiet? Still no reply. It seemed my wolf and demon had conspired against me. My wolf didn't want me to leave, but that decision wasn't up to her. I had to protect my demon, and she'd better understand that. My demon, on the other hand, was probably mad because she was feeling left out and had seen too much than she would have wanted. I decided to let them be as I thought of ways to escape. I quickly shot out of the bed, but dropped down back as a searing pain shot through me from the spot in between my legs. I hadn't slept with him, had I? Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. What have I done? I lifted myself up, inspecting the sheets for any sign of red substance to show that I had done the unforgivable. But nothing. The sheets were as blue as its owner's eyes with not a single spot on it. If we hadn't done then why does it feel so sore down there? I was losing my mind, but before I completely lost it, I had to get us out of here and somewhere safe. I got up, ignoring the pricking pain I felt as I moved. I lowered myself beside the brown shuttle bag Lily had packed for me, which was still where she had left it, picked out my regular jeans and a white tank top. After putting myself in some clothes, I hurried over to the mirror and a scream left my mouth when I saw myself. The deep neck of the tank top did nothing to hide the hickeys that were scattered all over my neck and upper chest. Marcus had really outdone himself. If he wanted everyone to know I was his without actually marking me, he could have just told them and not gone so extreme to make his point. I huffed, the vexation building up like a volcano eruption. I wouldn't have been so mad if he'd at least stopped brushing his fingers through my hair the whole time. My hair looked like I'd just come back from the war front. I quickly straightened my white waves, packing them into a ponytail. I went over to the window to see how high it would take to land if I were to shift and jump out. I couldn't use the doors because I could hear the soft breathing of the Omega just outside my door. I could beat the guard down with ease and go through, but I didn't know how much of my powers I'd be able to control in order not to get exposed. It was a plus that I felt stronger now. The heat had passed and my energy was back alongside my sanity. Just as I grabbed onto the windowsill to bend over, I withdrew my hands with a scream. I stared down at my palms and my eyes widened in disbelief. What the fuck? Marcus's POV. I hid deeper into the shadows of the trees as I watched Chloe through my window. A smirk grew on my lips as I saw her coming towards the window. I'd guessed right. She was a stubborn little wolf who wouldn't bother taking permission from her guard to leave. She'd want to make an escape, any minute from now. I waited with bated breath for her to reach for the window. She finally did, and I inhaled sharply, my mind spinning with disbelief and fear as she quickly withdrew her hand. Fuck. Nah, couldn't possibly be, could it? I hid behind a big tree when she raised her eyes, looking around like she was trying to find something or someone. She probably sensed that someone was watching her. Before she could get any crazy ideas or see me, I shifted into my big black wolf and ran off into the woods. My wolf used the trees as shields as we ran, only coming to the open when we reached the training grounds. I picked up a shirt from the heap on the floor, nodding at a soldier who greeted me. Where is the Gamma? He is with the warriors in the soldier quarters. They are having a meeting of some sort, he replied, pointing at the building. And the rest of you? We're doing warm-ups and awaiting training. Very good, I nodded. Now, go tell Titus these exact words. I'll be in his study and ask him not to keep me too long, for I lack patience. He complied, bowed, and jogged away. I watched him for a while before walking towards Titus's home. The guards at the entrance bowed, making way for me to go through before taking their places on either side of me as they escorted me in. I'll go from here, I said when we got to the bottom of the stairs. Without any arguments, they bowed and walked away. I took the stairs one at a time, my anger building up as I recalled Chloe being here. Titus had a lot of guts bringing her over to his place instead of contacting me first. What a fool. I finally reached the top of the stairs. My eyes immediately fell on the door of his bedroom, and I glared so hard at it that I mentally saw the wood splitting apart. I heaved a heavy sigh, turning around the corner and heading for his study. I took my time to admire the paintings on the wall, a smile creeping onto my face. I love art, and Titus was the best artist I'd ever come across in all the 402 years of my life. It was what I loved best about him, and would have considered him painting a picture of Chloe, if only he didn't like her too much for his own good. We had to adjust that, though. I'd like to avoid the repeat of some unpleasant occurrences in the future. I pressed down on the doorknob and it cracked open. Pushing it, I stepped into his study and slammed the door behind me. I looked around at the beautiful paintings on the wall. She was such a tempting little woman. My tempting woman. I could have had her if I wanted, but I had decided against it. I didn't want her hating me for taking advantage of her. I needed her to be prepared for me and accept me first. I strolled towards Titus's little wine bar that was perched at one corner of the room. I picked out a bottle of scotch and poured myself a full glass. I returned the bottle, picked up my glass of wine, and took a long sip. I strolled back to his desk, lowered myself into his seat, and started rummaging through his things. He had a couple of files littered all over the desk, and also a copy of drawings and paintings of naked women, of course. Son of a whore, when it came to the whole womanizing thing, Titus did women a greater deal than I. There was no arguing that I loved a beautiful woman from time to time, but that was in the past now. I had Chloe now, the rest could go to hell for all I cared. I went through the drawings. I knew a couple of the naked she-wolves in the drawings, and I'd betted some of them. I scoffed when I came across a naked drawing of Kara. Whore. Most men in the pack, if not all, have been inside her. She had a sexy body which kept the cocks raised, but that was no reason to whore around. I've had her more than a few times, but a mere fuck was all she was considered as. I took another gulp of my drink as I flipped through the drawings. Chloe had ruined my eyes for another. None of these women could hold a candle to her, and she was just 18. I wondered how she'd be at 25, and I couldn't help the proud smile that appeared on my lips. I was going to be the envy of the town by the time the neighboring pack saw my queen. She was perfectly sculpted, heavenly designed, and made as a true queen. I had no idea if all silver wolves looked perfect, but what I was sure of was, mine was the most perfect. I sighed when I flipped past the picture of another naked woman, and I thought I'd seen Chloe, but how was that possible? It's not like he'd seen her naked, right? Oh, wait a second. I quickly flipped back to the previous photo, and what I saw made me see black. Right there on a page of Titus's album was a naked drawing of her. If you are still wondering who, I'm referring to Chloe, my Chloe. The most infuriating part was that he'd gotten the exact size of her breasts, the curves of her slender waist and wide hips. That could mean one thing: he'd taken his time to look at her. I fumed with rage. The anger clouded my thinking as I gripped onto the glass tighter. I brought it to my lips, downing my drink in one go. Just as I swallowed the bitter liquid and it left a burning sensation in my throat, the doors to the study flung open and the unfortunate stepped in. Without giving it a thought, I flung the glass right at him and it hit his head, leaving a deep cut on his forehead. He fell to the ground groaning. I jumped over the desk and lurched at him. Picking him off the floor, I slammed his back hard against the wall, then smacked my fist into his face. "I didn't touch her, Alpha, I promise," he yelled, trying to shield himself from another blow, but I got him in the ribs. I'd found her unconscious, and all I did was heal her. "I swear!" "Shut the fuck up!" I roared, grabbing him by the neck. I pressed harder until his eyes started to roll in, choking the life out of him. I might regret this later, but all I wanted to do at the moment was murder him. I was suddenly pulled off of him, and he coughed for air, shifting as far as he could from me. I went to lurch at him, but someone held me back. "Calm down, Marcus." I heard Mark yell, and that was when I realized he was the one holding me back. "Your eyes are completely black. You're losing it. You need to calm down." Let go, I growled, struggling against his hold, but he wouldn't let me. I said let go. Titus, get out of here. I can't hold him for too long. I roared when Titus shifted into his red wolf and dashed out of the door. Mark released me, and he quickly ran to the door and turned in the locks. I growled at him, and he raised his hands in a form of surrender. Marcus, you need to calm down, he encouraged. Think about Chloe. She wouldn't be happy seeing you being this monster, so you need to calm down. At the mention of her name, it was like the whole anger dissolved. I heaved heavily, marching over to the desk and snatching up Chloe's drawing. I shoved it into my pockets, then looked up at Mark. I want him locked up and tortured. If you fail to carry out this order as my beta, I won't hesitate to punish you too. Mark looked unsure. Marcus, don't you think you're taking this a little too far? I chose to ignore him. Sending him one last warning glare, I walked out of the room, not failing to bump shoulders with him. 20. Alpha males and overprotectiveness. Chloe's POV. I stared with wide eyes as the place where my skin had burnt healed back immediately. My attention went back to the window I had touched, and that was when I noticed that the whole window was covered in silver. What the fuck? Had there always been silver on that window, or had Marcus just suddenly put it there? It couldn't be him who put it there, right? He knew I was a werewolf, and silver does not affect werewolves, right? If Marcus wasn't the one who put the silver on, the question now is, who put the silver on the windowsill? It had to be someone who knew what I am or did. I drew in a sharp breath as a thought swarmed through my mind. Fucking Mark. Ugh, I love Lily, but this was the point where I felt like decapitating her mate. How could he be so careless when he knew I was keeping my identity a secret? Or had I done something suspicious in my sleep? Lots of thoughts swirled in my mind, and the unsettling feeling returned to my stomach. I looked around the large room, and that was when I noticed that everywhere was covered in silver. Fuck! I had to get out of here. My wolf and demon could also feel the danger we were in, and for the first time they both agreed with me to flee. Without thinking upon it, I charged back to the window. The fierce hotness of the silver burnt my skin deep, and I let out a loud scream as I threw myself out the window. I shifted midair, but still managed to land on my hind leg, and it twisted painfully. I heard running steps, and I looked up the window to see the guards that were kept to watch me look about frantically. I hadn't realized just how far I'd jumped, but it was quite a large distance from the ground. There she is! An Omega pointed down at where my wolf sat wincing due to the pain in one of her legs. What are y'all waiting for? Get her! Come on, girl, try moving, I pleaded with my wolf, and she suddenly rose when the guards quickly approached. She started limping, running so fast as her other legs could carry her. We picked up speed as she recuperated, and soon she was running with all her energy. We ran that way for a few minutes, and I could still hear the paws of the guards hit the ground as they chased after us. She started running in a zigzag pattern as she tried to throw them off our track. Soon we lost them, and I shifted back. I looked around to see if I could recognize where we'd ended up, but I realized I'd never been to this part of the forest. Everywhere looked strange, so I decided to play it safe. I levitated, using the trees as I floated over the forest. My wolf was full of energy once again. It'd been a while since I let her out, and I let her have a good run. This was the first time she actually took sides with me in protecting my demon, but I guess it's because she knew all three of us would be in grave danger if I hadn't left. She kept whining that we return back to her mate, but that wasn't about to happen, and it'd be best if she realized that sooner than later. I could hear the sound of water flowing in the distance, and I followed it, going deeper into the woods. By now, the trees had gotten taller, and up here, I could no longer see the floor of the forest. It had become eerily quiet, and I wondered where all the birds and beasts went in such a lovely evening. I finally saw what I was looking for. It was a waterfall which flowed down, forming a river, rushing straight out of a huge rock. I sighed in relief, floating over to a slippery stone, and lowered myself beside the river. I dipped my hand in, the warmness of the water doing nothing to my freezing skin. I hadn't even thought of my temperature. I always had clothes and gloves on, so it was hard for him to notice the coldness of my body. Today was the first time being with him with no clothes at all, and he couldn't have noticed because the heat made my body warm. Could I have gotten cold while he was still in bed with me, and that gave me away? What a mess up. I shouldn't have fallen asleep. I shouldn't have let him touch me the way he did in the first place. I should have pushed him away. My wolf got angry, not liking that I had regrets, but there was nothing she could do about that. It wasn't her body he had used, it was mine. I picked up a pebble and flung it into the water. I repeated that for a few more times, then sighed, falling on my back and looking up at the sky. It had started getting dark, and the stars were beginning to decorate the sky, shining their twinkling lights. I quickly scanned the sky, looking for the stars I'd dubbed as my parents. I saw them, two big stars standing just right next to each other. "Hey, Mama, hey, Papa," I muttered slowly. It could have just been me and my crazy hallucinations, but I thought I saw them twinkle brighter. A smile formed on my lips, and I hadn't realized I was crying until a sob escaped me. My eyes burned with tears, the next drop following immediately after the other. "Mama," I sniffed, blowing my nose. "I have found my mate. Can you believe that?" I waited like my mother would suddenly wake up from the dead and reply to me. "He wants me. I think he loves me, but I'm so scared, Mama. I really am." He's handsome," I giggled, picturing how his pupils dilated whenever he stared at me, and how his baby blue turned a dark blue whenever he got excited. "He's so sweet to me and so attentive, but I don't know if he would still like me after he discovers what I really am. Help me. I need to run away from here, and I have nowhere to go." I screamed in my mind, the sobs not letting me speak out. I laid there, crying and talking to my parents for what felt like hours. It was nightfall by now, and the only thing I could hear was the calming sound of flowing water and nocturnal animals in the distance. They all kept away from me, like they'd sensed my power and the danger I could be to them. I had long stopped crying but didn't get up. I laid there with my eyes closed and an arm crossed over them. I heard the sound of a twig breaking, and I got up quickly, taking my stand as I prepared to fight whatever danger could be approaching. There suddenly came a strong wind which blew my hair in my face, and just before I could wipe the hair away, I felt a presence behind me. My body stilled with fear, and I began to shake. The kind of power that radiated off the person was proof that I wouldn't make it out of here alive, if that was to be an enemy. I slowly turned around to meet the unwelcome visitor, and my eyes widened when I recognized what it was. A vampire. He was a man who looked to be in his 80s, and for a vampire, this one could be over 1,000,000 years old. He was tall and pale, had black hair perfectly slicked to the back, a strict face and tight jaws. He gazed down at me with green eyes, and surprisingly, he reminded me of someone I knew but couldn't place my hand on it. He hadn't uttered a word, but I was sure he also sensed the fear that emitted from me. I was like a leaf trembling at the force of superior power standing before me. At this point, I no longer wanted to fight, I just needed to make an escape. I could never have a speed so fast as his, not even half of it. He'd teleported over here, and of all the vampire abilities I inherited from my mother, teleportation hadn't been one of them. How exactly do I outrun a vampire who teleports? He finally took a step forward, and I took 2 steps backwards. Who are you?" I stuttered, moving backwards as he kept coming towards me. "Stop right there. Don't come any closer," I screamed in a panicked voice. He came to a halt, cocking his head to the side as he made me an object of great interest. "You look just like your mother," he finally spoke. My brows creased in confusion. "Who are you?" I asked again, more cautious this time. "I am family," he replied. I was going to question him further when I heard Marcus's voice in the distance, calling out for me. He was running towards me, and I couldn't help the feeling of relief that instantly washed over me. The stranger hissed, rolling his eyes. "I need to get rid of that wolf of yours first. Seems he'd be such a troublemaker," he added calmly. "What do you mean by that?" I asked. My wolf started growling at him when she heard the threat he'd imposed on her mate. A corner of his lips raised up as if he was going to smile, but then it vanished like it had never been there in the first place. He stared right into my eyes, and slowly, I got lost in them. It seemed like he was hypnotizing me because my mind became blank. "We never met, we never saw," he chanted. May the memory vanish from your memories until we meet again. And just like that, he was gone. I fell to the ground, feeling drained and confused, as I couldn't remember what exactly happened. The last I could remember, I had been on my back staring at the sky. So how? Chloe! I heard Marcus scream in the distance. I was going to call back, but I knew he wouldn't be able to hear me. He was still a far distance away from where I was, and he didn't possess the kind of hearing abilities I did. I heard him howling, and I knew he'd shifted and invited some members of the pack. I sighed, putting my knees up in front of me and wrapping my arms around them. Just a few hours of me being away, and he already had a search party looking for me. I listened to their heavy paws as they rammed into the earth. They were closer now, and as unbelievable as this sounded, I was excited to see what Marcus's wolf looked like. I strained my ears as I heard him roar, calling out to me again. I looked ahead, and there came out of the dark forests a gigantic black wolf running straight at me. I was awe-stricken as my mate came to a screeching halt in front, his massive form towering over me in a protective manner. He shifted back and swiftly pulled me up into his arms and locked me in a tight embrace. He held me so close that I thought I was going to get choked to death. Just then, about a dozen wolves busted out of the forest. What was that they said about alpha males and over-possessiveness again? 22. Waterfalls and secret doors. Marcus's POV. I grumbled all the way home, my blood boiling with anger as I thought about Titus. He had a lot of nerves to think of taking advantage of Chloe in such a manner. By the gods, I would have ripped his heart out of his chest if Mark hadn't come to his rescue. I passed by the Omega who was calling out to me, ignoring him as I headed upstairs and straight for my room. I needed to see Chloe. She was the only thing that could keep me sane right now. I flung the door open to find an empty bedroom. Just as I was going to yell, the Omega I had assigned to be by the bedroom door always ran in, panting like he'd just been chased by a lion. "Where the hell is Chloe?" I snapped. "I'm so sorry, Alpha. I didn't know when she jumped out the window until she screamed." She jumped? She screamed?" He nodded. "She fell on her hind legs and twisted one of them." "Fuck," I muttered, rubbing a hand down my face. What had I been thinking? That she was probably something other than a wolf? I had gotten confused earlier. When I awoke, I found Chloe peacefully asleep with her head still placed on my chest. I went to brush her cheeks, but guess what? She was as cold as a bag of ice. I had quickly retracted my hand, weird thoughts filtered into my mind, and I decided that I'd find out for myself. But thinking over it now, I think I'd gone too far with the whole Silver thing. I dismissed him with a wave of my hand, and immediately the door shut behind him. I contacted Marcus through the link. Chloe escaped. Is she over at your place? I took off my boots, dropping myself into the bed as I waited for Mark's reply. It took a few more minutes before I heard his voice in my head. Not surprised, she does that all the time. So what do I do? I'm getting frustrated not having her here with me. This time around, he replied back immediately. You need to cut her some slack and give her some space. Man, she likes freedom. I give her space, you piece of shit. I hope you have done what I asked you to do. Yes. I locked him up and I'll take you to him after you might have calmed down. I rolled my eyes at what he said. I couldn't calm down. I'll still feel like killing Titus whenever I set my eyes on him. But you gotta see the positive side of everything, right? I smiled, pulling out the folded sheet of paper from my pocket. I unfolded it and stared down at Chloe. It was almost unbelievable. For how well he drew her, one would think it was a photo taken, if not for it hadn't been painted yet. I sat up, my eyes never leaving the drawing. I stared from her beautiful face to her perfect body, my eyes taking a longer time on her breasts. Damn! They were perfect! I knew not what I'd done so right that made the gods reward me that way, but my mate was totally the whole package. From the very strand of her white hair, which made her look like she was carved out of the moon, down to her large green eyes, pointed nose, plump lips, and long baby face. Seeing her face only can make any man weak in the knees, not to talk about her perfect body. She'd matured so quickly, it made me forget her age sometimes. What made her the most irresistible was the fact that she hadn't been with another man before me. I was the first man to see her nakedness. The thought of Titus mocked me, and I started growling again, the anger returning in full force. I was still trying to get down from my angry state when the alarm in my head started to ring. Just like the speed of light, the barrier surrounding my pack lands was broken, and we had trespassers coming in. I was the only one who could feel and notice it as Alpha, and with the way the alarms were going off, whatever had gotten into these lands, it had to be deadly. I picked up my shirt, putting it on quickly, and was out of the house before anyone could notice. I broke into a run, heading for the forest. As I went deeper, I looked around carefully, and soon I saw it. Just like the speed of light, it went past me, and if I had been any slower, I would never have seen it. A vampire? My heart started thumping in my chest as fear crept into my heart. For centuries, vampires had kept to the agreement we made and had stayed off our lands for as long as I could remember. What prey could they suddenly want from us now? I quickly contacted Mark. Where is Chloe? Out in the forest. Why? Shit. Chloe is out here alone, and we have vampires in the forests. I'm off to look for her. Bring back up. I took off again in the direction of where I noticed it go. Chloe, I yelled, and I might have been wrong, but it seemed as if she had replied. It was going to be easier if I let my wolf find his mate, so I shifted, and he took off in a particular direction. We ran deeper into the forest, and I couldn't help but be surprised how Chloe found herself there. They'd said she loved to wander, but I hadn't known it was that. Bad. I chuckled when my wolf led me straight to my hiding place in the woods, and there she sat with her body all folded up. She didn't look surprised, so she must have sensed me coming. She stared up at my wolf in awe, and if I saw the admiration swirling in her eyes, I think I just scored myself another point. As much as I loved that she admired my wolf, I couldn't wait to have her in my arms, so I shifted and picked her up. I wrapped her in, my large body covering hers, and I looked around cautiously. The alarm in my head stopped beeping, which signaled that the vampires had left. It seemed confusing that they'll leave so suddenly, and I felt something wasn't right. My suspicions about Chloe returned, and I hugged her tighter to see if I'll feel the coldness again, but I couldn't. I just had a run. My whole body was heated up. I sensed them, and I fought the growl that threatened to leave my throat when I sensed who had also come with Mark. Their wolves all ran out and surrounded us. Not wanting to alert Chloe, I connected them through the link, assuring them that they could relax for the vampire was gone. They shifted back and Mark walked towards us. Chloe? She let go of me, giving Mark a hug, and my wolf growled in jealousy. Chloe gave me the stink eye, not liking my possessiveness. I couldn't help myself. It really ticked me to see her with another person, talk more of another man. Alpha, I huffed, turning around to face Lima. What the hell are you doing here? Didn't I ask you to stay the hell away from me? He shook his head negatively. I just wanted to help. I stared down at his sullen face, but there was still so much anger inside of me to feel any pity towards him. I'd given him a simple instruction to look after Chloe, but he'd failed. He knew Chloe was my life. He knew I couldn't live without her, and he hadn't protected her like he ought to have. I turned away from Lima and shot Mark a glare. Why did you bring Lima along? He insisted that he wanted to help, so I brought him, he shrugged. And what if something had happened to him? I snapped, cursing myself when I saw Chloe tremble. She looked confusedly between Mark and I, then her gaze flickered to Lima, who stood behind me brooding. I pulled her to me, placing a kiss on the side of her head, and her body immediately relaxed. Y'all go back home, leave us alone for a while. Nobody moved. Mark looked at me with an unsure look on his face before connecting me through the link. It's not safe out hurt. Lily will have my manhood, if anything happens to Chloe. I will never let anything harm her. Now leave with the rest of the wolves. But, I roared, and they all took a step back. Chloe struggled to move out of my arms, but I held on to her tightly. I took her chin in between my fingers. I am not angry at you, love. I could never be. I let her go only to hold her hand, and I turned us away from the rest and walked away. If they wanted to stay out there and keep guard, they were free to. I took Chloe into the water, and she followed obediently, but then halted when she noticed I was leading her towards the waterfall. Ugh, she started. What are you trying to do? Get us wet or something? I smiled gently at her. Just trust me, I want to show you something. She nodded, then followed me into the water. I asked her to close her eyes, which she did, and only when we got to the door of the cave did I ask her to open them. She gasped when she found a door attached to the rock and then looked behind us to see the water flowing at the top of the rock. Wow, what is this place? My secret hideout when I was a kid. You want to see? She nodded and I cracked the door open, ushering her in first. Chloe's POV. I was left in amazing wonder as Marcus pulled open the door to reveal a long passageway. He clapped twice, and the candles, which I hadn't noticed were perched on the walls, came alive. Ladies first, he said, ushering me with a gesture of his hand. I stared down at our joined hands, a smile sneaking up my lips. I went in, and he followed right behind me. At first, it seemed like a long, endless passageway in a gigantic rock that made up a waterfall. I was getting impatient and was just going to ask, when a house came into view. It was lit up by bright yellow lights, which seemed magical, like we just walked into an enchanted cave. I looked back at Marcus, and he was already looking at me. I shyly turned away, my cheeks heating up as he laughed. "My baby's a shy one," he asked, squeezing my hand. He pulled me forward as we walked towards the house. It looked like a big cabin with lots of flowers growing around it. In all of my wandering around, I could never have found out that a place like this existed. Marcus had once mentioned that he also liked to wander off to God knows where until he became alpha. We went around the house to the back, which, just like the front, was also covered in different varieties of flowers. I left his hand, walking over and picking up a light blue rose. I stared down at the beauty as a grin spread on my lips. "It's beautiful." "Just like the color of your eyes," I whispered. I inhaled softly when Marcus' arms snaked around my waist, hugging me from the back. "Not as beautiful as you," he muttered, burying his nose in my hair. A blush crept up my cheeks as I remained speechless. I wanted to reply to him, but I was dumbfounded. I couldn't place my mind on the right words to say. I decided to remain quiet, leaning into him. We stayed that way some minutes, until he started kissing my neck. I moaned. My eyes rolled as I felt his hands groping my breasts. He then lifted his lips to my ear, sucking and nibbling on it. "Chloe?" I replied. He then stopped what he was doing and whispered in my ears, "Why is your body so cold?" That stilled me, wiping out any little feeling of excitement that had started to build up. I moved out of his arms and turned around to face him. I tried to read him, but he kept his face bare of any emotion. The fear suddenly returned, and I regretted letting myself get carried away again. "Stupid Chloe! Blast you! Damn stupid wolf!" I quickly turned away from him, walking as fast as I could to make an escape. His hands quickly shot out and grabbed me, pulling me to him. I struggled against him, but he held on to me tightly. "Let me go!" "Baby, you need to tell me what's going on so I can help you," he stated calmly, still holding on to me. "Please stop running away. I'm here for you now," he added in a whisper. I started struggling violently, fighting so hard as not to use my vampire strength, but did he let go? No. Rather, he held on to me tighter. He kept muttering in my ear, pleading that I don't run away and stay with him. "Why do you want me so much?" I asked, finally breaking out of his grip. I moved away when he came to hold me again. "Don't touch me," I snapped. "Just tell me why you really don't want me to leave." "It's because I love you," he yelled. His eyes widened when he realized what he'd just said. I was left in shock too, not being able to think properly. "I love Chloe," he said in a much calmer tone. "I fell in love with you even before I met you, even before I knew you were mated to me. Don't you see it?" "No," I muttered, taking 2 steps away from him. "No, you don't see it?" "No, you can't love me," his brows creased in confusion. "And why can't I? Look, Chloe, I'm not telling you to love me right now. I'm just asking you to at least accept me." "I can't accept you, never," I said defiantly. "Let's unmate, please," I pleaded, putting all my desperation in my voice. He didn't say a word. He just stood there glaring at me for a long period of time. Then finally, "No." "No what?" I asked. He let out a humorless chuckle, then kept a straight face again. "You can forget about me ever rejecting you, and don't ever think I'll let you do that. Stop acting like a child and grow up. I won't tolerate such nonsensical attitude from you in the future." I trembled a little as he yelled, the finality in his tone making me feel helpless. How exactly could I get out of this without getting exposed? Adjust your neckline, your boobs are peeking out. I followed his eyes that were glued to my chest. I quickly adjusted the shirt, not letting my eyes meet his. An exhausted sigh left Marcus. Why don't you give us a chance? Because I don't deserve your love. He shook his head, coming to hold me again, but I still moved away. No, baby, don't say that. If anything, I'm the one who doesn't deserve your love, but You don't know what I am, I screamed. You wouldn't love me as much as you claim when you see all of me. Try me, he said. I nodded, a stray tear rolling down my eyes. I was so scared to see what his reaction will be like if he saw my demon. I was scared of him hating me, but I had to show him. If that was what it was going to take for him to understand me, I'll do it. I stepped back, pushing my wolf to the back of my mind and letting my demon surface. I let my eyes glow red, and with the shocked gasp that left his lips, I guess my demon was overdoing it today. Then I hissed, letting my long fangs surface. My demon kept hissing threateningly at him, but I held her back from pouncing on him. Marcus looked dead pale. He stood there with mouth agape. I took a step forward, my heart hammering in my chest as I waited for my worst fear. I waited for him to run or try to fight me, but I was caught unawares when he reached for me and kissed me. I didn't kiss back. This is not you, Chloe, he muttered against my lips. Give me back, Chloe, then maybe I'll give you some blood, he negotiated with my demon. Surprisingly, my fangs sank back in and my eyes adjusted back to their emerald green. I was still trying to process what happened. Had Marcus just negotiated with my demon? He looked down at me, a grin forming on his lips. Thank you for giving her back to me, he said, pulling me back into another kiss. But Mark, I started. Shh. He hushed. Putting his hand on my ass, he lifted me off the ground and I was forced to wrap my arms and legs around him. Don't say a word, just go with the flow. I did as he authorized, going with the flow. He started walking us towards the house, not breaking the kiss once. I was already running out of breath, but he wouldn't let me breathe. I heard the sound of a door being unlocked, and soon my back hit something soft and fluffy. Marcus knelt in front of me as he stripped himself off his clothes. I busied myself looking around the room. I was on a big couch. There were two similar couches and a big table at the center of the large room. After all that, nothing else. My attention shifted back to Marcus as I heard the sound of his belt hit the ground. I quickly sat up. My eyes rolled up to meet his. He was already looking at me with a proud smirk plastered on his face. He leaned into my touch, gently pushing me back down on the couch. He brought his lips down on mine. Marcus's POV. I brought my lips back to hers, nibbling softly as I sucked on them with urgent need. You're so sweet, I whispered. Gosh, baby, you taste like candy. She blushed hard, her face turning as red as a fresh fruit of tomato. I thought if she actually knew what she was doing to me. She definitely didn't know. She was too innocent for her own good. Marcus. Yes, baby. I reply, almost not recognizing my voice. It sounded husky and wild, just like how I feel right now. Tell me, what do you want, love? She looked from side to side, but refused meeting my eyes. She opened and closed her mouth like a fish that lost its way out of the water. I chuckled and she grew red on the ears, the color spreading across to her neck and cheeks. I got off her, pulling her to me. She dropped her head on my chest, and I laid there listening to her soft breaths and caressing her beautiful hair. Her fingers fell onto my chest, and she began drawing little circles on my chest. A groan rumbled out of me, and she quickly withdrew her hand. I am sorry, I didn't mean to do that, she stuttered in a low voice. I took her hand and placed it back on my chest. I'm not mad at you. I was only enjoying what you were doing. Maybe a little too much. Marcus's POV. I twirled a strand of her hair in between my fingers as I watched her sleep peacefully. I'd kept her up all night, which must have really taken a toll on her, because she's been passed out since then. Mark has already contacted me 3 times, saying that Lily was getting worried about Chloe, and I assured him not to worry. Not even Mark knew of this place. It was a family secret. My dad had built this place when I was still a little wolf. Father, Mother, and I would sneak away from the rest of the pack and come spend some family time here alone. After a while, he got too busy, and I'd come here alone when I felt like having some quiet time. It continued that way until I had to ascend the throne, and since then, I visited this place once in a while. Chloe is the first person I've ever brought here. I never brought those other she-wolves. Not even my most trusted men did I bring them here. I felt the magic in this place, sensed my love for her, and that was why it brought us closer to each other. I lowered my lips onto hers, rubbing my nose slightly against hers as I dropped a peck on her lips. She stirred a little in her sleep, but never woke up. She kept making little cute sounds, and I couldn't help but giggle. I ran my fingers through her soft white hair, loving how it felt in between my fingers. I couldn't tell what I loved the most about her. Was it her hair, eyes, or breasts? She was just so perfect, and she was all mine. She was living proof that an ancestor of mine must have done something that was pleasing to the gods to give me a jewel like Chloe. I am such a bad person. I couldn't have done anything deserving of her. I looked through the open windows, and the golden rays of the sun were already penetrating in. We needed to get back as soon as possible, so as not to raise concern. I had let her sleep for too long, and it was time to wake her up. I carefully lifted the sheets off her, a groan escaping me as I checked her out. She was so beautiful, and I could never tire from staring at such perfection. She grabbed my face in between her palms, and then sat up to give me a big kiss. I couldn't control the grin that spread on my lips, and she should have noticed it, because she quickly let go of me, looking away shyly. "I hadn't meant to do that," she said in a little voice. I chuckled, pulling her in for another kiss, which she complied. "My shy little vampire," I muttered against her lips. She shifted away just enough to look at my face. "You shouldn't let someone hear you say that," she scolded. "We also need to talk about this. Now you know, what do you intend to do with me?" I gave her a straight look. "I intend to make you my queen, and you shall take your place as Luna of our pack. We will have to keep your identity undisclosed for now, but I want you to try mingling with other members of the pack." She sat up straighter. Do I really have to mingle?" A chuckle rumbled out of my chest. "It's necessary, sweetheart. You need to get to know your subjects and them, you." "But I don't like to mingle," she whined, a cute pout gracing her lips. I picked her up and placed her on my thighs. "I know you don't like to mingle. I also don't. But it's our duty as royalty to get to know and protect our people. Do you understand me, love?" She nodded. I gave her one last kiss before pulling her up. We got dressed quickly and started heading out of the rock house. She wanted me to show her around, and when refused, promising to bring her over here some other time, she got sad and wouldn't talk to me. We had long left the house and were just taking a stroll through the woods as we headed home. Chloe suddenly stopped, forcing me to also stop as our hands were connected. She looked around cautiously, then her eyes suddenly met mine. "There was someone here just now," she whispered. I stared at her, trying to figure if she was fooling around, but she looked serious. I knew vampires had a better hearing ability than werewolves, also a better vision. But if they had really been someone, I would have felt it. "As alpha of this pack, I have magical abilities that were passed on to me," I started calmly, not wanting to provoke her further. If they had been trespassing with the barrier, I would be first to sense it. She stared at me blankly as if deep in thoughts. "But I know what I sensed," she muttered to herself. She then gave me a forced smile. "Sorry for bothering you. I think the whole stress is getting to my head," she stated in a final tone. I just nodded, not wanting to push the matter, but it get me cause for concern. What if she really had sensed someone that I hadn't been able to? She pulled me, and we proceeded out of the forest. After about 30 minutes of walking, we finally met the familiar view of our town. I held onto her tightly when I felt her try to disconnect our hands. We'd passed by a group of teenage she-wolves, and she probably got shy. "You should let go," she whispered. "I don't wish to." She sighed, shifting closer into my side as we passed by a group of soldiers. They all bowed, greeting simultaneously. "This feels so weird," she groaned. I laughed, staring down at her. "You should get used to it, babe." We reached the massive doors of my mansion and the guards let us through. I headed up the stairs, targeting my bedroom. I was in need of a shower and I had plans of Chloe joining me in there. Those plans only lasted until we got to the door. Just as I went to turn the doorknob, I stilled. I got the whiff of an unwanted scent and my eyes widened when I realized it was coming from my room. I turned around to face Chloe, and yes, you guessed right, she was shooting a glare at me and I could see the questions in her eyes. "Marcus?" "Yes, baby," I replied. "What is a woman doing in your room?" I opened my mouth and closed it again, being unable to utter a word no matter how hard I tried. Chloe looked from me and back to the door. She gave me another glare, walked around and pushed the door open. I held my breath as she walked into the room, and I only followed when I heard a choked sob leave her lips. I stomped inside to yell at Maggie, but what I saw left me shocked. Right there in the middle of my bed laid a naked Maggie. A wide grin appeared on her lips when she saw me. "Hi, baby. Surprise!" My eyes only left her when I heard Chloe scoff beside me. She looked from Maggie back to me, and my heart broke when I saw the hurt in her eyes. Without saying a word, she turned around and walked out. I followed after her, trying to explain myself, but she wouldn't listen. "Baby, wait, it's not what you think. Leave me alone." I ran down the stairs, trying to catch up with her speed. "Just wait for me, please. I'll send her away and we'll talk about this." She suddenly stopped when she got to the door. She spun around, facing me. "To hell with you." And just like that, she slammed the door in my face. I was going to go after her, but then remembered that I had a more pressing issue at hand. I crossed the living room in a few seconds and marched back up the stairs. "Maggie," her annoying voice greeted my ears when I walked in to see her still and nothing on my bed. She had a smirk on her face when she said, "Really? So you now do little kids too," she giggled. "Your little wolf is cute, but now I'm back, you can forget about." Her eyes widened in shock when I grabbed her, pulling her up forcefully. "Don't you dare talk about Chloe that way," I roared. "Why are you here? Why now of all times?" She rolled her eyes. "Is all these drama just because of that little girl?" she scoffed. "I knew you never had choices when it came to women, but this one is just too much." I tried to control the rage that was building up in me, and when I knew I could no longer hold it, I forcefully let go of her and she landed on the bed. "Listen carefully, and listen good," I started in a threatening tone. "If by the time I get back I still see you here, I'll return you back to your father in a body bag." I didn't wait for her reply. I walked out and went in search of Chloe. 26. Cat out of the bag. Chloe's POV. I slammed the door in his face, just before a tear escaped my eye and landed on my cheek. I choked back a sob, not wanting him to hear me cry as I made a run for the gates. I increased my steps, not minding the looks I got from the Omegas that were too busy staring at a crying she-wolf, than doing their duties. I passed by the entrance and a guard reached out to touch me, but immediately withdrew his hand, for I gave him a dangerous glare. I turned around to see if Marcus was coming after me, even though I doubted he would. It still hurt that he didn't try to run after me, and he went back to her. By now, I couldn't control the tears any longer, and they kept cascading down my cheeks like I had an ocean in my eyes. I was close to the house now. I could sense Lillian, but Mark's scent was absent. That had to be a good thing, because I didn't want him running off to Marcus and telling him I was here. I stomped up the stairs and up to the front door. Without knocking, I pushed the door open, stepping in to find Lily on the couch with a book in her hand. She looked up at me, and just being in the comfort of my best friend once again, I teared up and bursted into another round of sobs. Lily quickly got up and came to take me in an embrace. I let her, wrapping my arms tightly around her as I cried into her shoulders. "Oh, sweetheart," she cooed. "What happened? You look a mess." "Marcus," I replied in between sniffs. She held me away, just enough to look me in the face. "Marcus?" I nodded and confusion grazed her face. "What did he do this time?" I opened my mouth to speak, but snapped it shut again. I still tried and ended up sobbing harder. Lily pulled me in for another hug and led me over to the sofa. She sat beside me, muttering a string of soothing words until my sobs turned into sniffs, and soon the sniffs also stopped. I looked up when Lily put her hand under my chin and gently raised my face to meet hers. "Chloe? Are you going to let me in on what's going on?" Or do I have to take a gun filled with wolf virus and go over to the alphas? My wolf scowled, not liking the threat being directed at her mate. I grabbed her hand in a silent plea, not doubting that she'll truly take a gun and go over to Marcus's. I didn't want any drama. I just wanted a freaking way out of whatever this whole thing was. Young lady, you'd better start talking before I do something drastic, Lily snapped in irritation. I gulped, the words feeling heavy on my tongue. I met a woman in Marcus's bedroom. Lily raised a brow, which was her signature expression of doubt. You were at God's Nowhere with Marcus last night, and I was expecting some juicy details. What's this about some other woman? I started to blush, but I tried as hard as I could to hide it. When we got back, there was a naked she-wolf in his bed. What? The look of shock and disgust on Lily's face made me tear up again. I had sex with him, Lily. I let him use me, and I can't believe I started falling for him. Gosh, I feel so stupid right now. Lily shifted closer. Oh, sweetie, do you love him? I don't know. I really don't know what I feel anymore, I yelled, more tears streaming down my face. I really thought we were beginning to build something special, I added in a whisper. Tell me all about it. And I spent the next 10 minutes narrating what had taken place earlier. By the time I was done, Lily appeared to be angrier than I was. Damn stupid Marcus, Lily growled, her face turning red with rage. I always knew he was a whore, but doing this to you? Not acceptable. My wolf's ears perked up, and I also couldn't contain my curiosity. Did you say he was a whore? I asked, trying to sound as disinterested as I could. She rolled her eyes, leaning back onto the couch. Yeah, he slept with almost every female wolf in the pack, so you have a lot more enemies than you think. My mouth parted in shock as I stared at Lily. I couldn't help the jealousy that had risen and stirred an unsettling feeling in the pit of my stomach. What exactly have I gotten myself into? Why am I hearing this just now? Lily scratched the back of her head, avoiding eye contact with me as she tried to avoid my question. Lily! Geez, calm down, she responded carefully. He paid me to keep my mouth shut, okay? She lowered her eyes, an embarrassed look taking over her features. I trusted him when he said he loved you. I thought things were really going to work out between you guys. I shook my head at her, feeling a little betrayed, but not mad at her. I knew the reason why she kept it away from me was to protect my feelings. She probably did not want to get me upset, as she knew I was a pretty jealous wolf. What else? She tried to act confused, but I pinned her with a warning glare. If you do not want me to rip you to pieces, start talking. Well, she started hesitantly. He told me not to tell you that he is 402 years old. She trailed off at the end of her speech. I just sat there, once more left in shock at another of Lily's revelations. 402? Seriously? Darling, Lily started with a nervous tone. I raised my eyes up to her, and I could see the nervousness on her face. She looked like she wasn't sure if whatever she had to say to me would be a wise decision, but still proceeded. You know age is only a number, right? Lily, I warned. Mark is 96 years and he fucks me better than my human ex, who was 19 years old at the time. Lily, I interjected, can you just shut up and be reasonable for once? Is sex all you think of? She frowned, acting to be upset, but I could still see the amusement lurking in her eyes. Today marks the last day. I shall never involve myself with anything that concerns you and that alpha mate of yours, she sighed dramatically. I couldn't help rolling my eyes. I decided to ignore her while I reflected upon what I'd just found out. Were the gods on some kind of high when they mated me to an ancient? I am just 18 for modesty's sake. How could they mate me to Marcus? This had to go down in history as the peak of pedophilia. This is child abuse. That's why you kept screaming for him to fuck you harder? I grabbed my head, forcing my wolf to shut up. But the way I was seeing it, she had no plans on keeping quiet anytime soon. I think we got jealous too fast, so we should go back to him. If he was cheating, we'd be alerted by now. Hello? I snapped out of my thoughts, focusing my attention back on Lily, who had a weird smirk on her lips. What is it? I snapped. You naughty little wolf, you're thinking about the sex, aren't you? I gave her a dirty look. That is not the pressing issue here, I spat rudely, trying to hide the excitement my thoughts had developed. He is cheating on me. Oh, please. Lily flipped me off with a wave of her hand. Do you really believe he's fucking some stupid she-wolf right now? You would be in pain, and since you aren't, means he's probably out there looking for you. I sighed in relief, but the thought of the naked she-wolf in his bed brought back the insecurity again. But what about the naked lady? What about her? Lily shrugged. And with what you told me, I think you ran away before finding out how she ended up naked in your man's bed. If it were me, I'll beat the bitch down. Whoa, it hasn't gotten to that, okay? I pouted, wondering if I'd overreacted. What do I do now? Do you think I'll ever be enough for someone with so many centuries of experience? Lily gave me a straight look. Honestly, no. Someone like you can never be enough for Marcus. I winced at her harsh but true words. The fact that I could never satisfy Marcus, both in bed and in politics, made me feel extremely small. What did I know about politics when I didn't even know the first thing about pleasing a man? What do I do? I looked up at Lily, feeling helpless and useless. If only I could be good in bed, I'd be able to keep the other ladies away from him. Help me, Lily. She gave me a long look, then her lips curved up in a smirk. I'll teach you some naughty things to spice up your relationship, but you have to let me without any complaints, okay? I nodded cautiously, wondering what she was planning in that weird head of hers. She got up, pushing me down on the sofa, then got on top of me. Before I could ask what she was doing, she brought her lips down on mine, engaging me in a heated kiss. Chloe's POV. Kiss me back, Lily muttered against my lips. I hesitated, then she sucked hard on my lips and I had no option but to give in. She kept kissing for about a minute, then she slid her tongue into my mouth. I followed her lead and soon I was kissing her back with the same energy. Very good, just like that. Her hands left my face and went to hold my breasts, but I stopped her. What are you doing? Will you relax? She snapped when I wouldn't stop trashing. It's not like I have a dick. I'm not gonna fuck you, gosh! I glared up at her, not letting her pull down my top like she wanted to. Then, why are you trying to touch my boobs? Can't you teach me without, you know? She got off me, offering a hand which I took, and she pulled me up. Look, Chloe, if I have to teach you, I'll like you to feel it. I folded my arms across my chest, cocking my head to the side. And you really do feel comfortable touching your female best friend that way? I used to be bisexual before I met Mark. My eyes widened in amazement. Wow, how many more revelations will I be getting from you today? She rolled her eyes, wrinkling her nose in fake disgust. You're just too much. Now come here. She raised my shirt over my head and dumped it on the floor. Her hands grabbed my breasts and I yelped, not expecting her to grope me so hard. I've always admired your boobs, you know. I moaned, following her lead as she led me back to the chair and pushed me down on it again. So we really have to do this? I asked, feeling uncomfortable with the position we were in. When I touch you, don't hold back and express what you're feeling, okay? I nodded. Ah, I moaned as my eyes fluttered shut. That feels so good. She detached her lips to look at me and giggled. That's very good. I want you to keep expressing yourself and moan his name whenever he makes you feel good, okay? I wasn't sure if whatever we were doing was a good idea, but I nodded. She picked up my shirt and tossed it over at me. That should be enough. Now I'll lecture you and you take notes on some things, okay? Okay, I replied. I quickly put my shirt on, leaned back against the couch, and watched Lily as she took a wooden chair and sat on it. The first point you should take if you want to be good in bed is the moaning, which we've already done, right? I nodded and she proceeded. The second one is your expression. Do not be ashamed to look him in the eyes, girl. Tell him to do what you want through your eyes. It leaves him at your mercy and come begging for more. I had to laugh and only stopped laughing when Lily shot me a glare. I had to imagine myself looking Marcus in the eyes. Where do one muster courage from again? Can we skip that? No, she yelled. You will look your man in the eyes. Am I clear? I gave her a mock salute, struggling to hold in the laugh that was threatening to leave my throat. Crystal clear, ma'am. She gave me a dirty look. Before acting stupid, just remember that you are the one with a lot of competition. I paled, my amusement vanishing instantly as I got reminded of the truth. My stomach twisted again, and in that moment I felt like throwing up. If you don't fuck him good, wouldn't take too long before someone else help you give it to him. That's enough, Lily. Please go on with the, lesson. Lily scoffed, the amusement returning back to her face as she shook her head at me. I almost forgot that it was Chloe I was talking to here. You know nothing. You never know anything. I pouted, feeling a little sad that she thought I wasn't capable of knowing little things as such. But where was the lie? I just wasn't good at knowing what normal people did. I was weird that way. Lily should have noticed that her words had upset me, because she looked at me with apologetic eyes. Apologies, I didn't mean to get you upset. I just want what's best for you, okay? I sighed in exasperation. I know, Lillian, just go ahead. That's not a problem, she shrugged, giving me a flat look. I know that there are a lot of she-wolves out there who would die to give him one. I stared pointedly at her, silently wishing to grab her by the neck and strangle her to the death. I really hated Lily sometimes, and this moment was one of those. My fist clenched at my sides, my teeth grinding aggressively against each other as I struggled to spit out one word. Fine, finally, I gritted out through clenched teeth. Lily passed me a smirk, then dramatically raised a hand to cup her ear. Sorry, what? I didn't hear you. I growled lowly, regretting the fact that I couldn't just rip her to pieces right here and now. Lily gave me a once-over. I grunted in agreement, not wanting to argue with her. I doubted if I'd do all the atrocious things she recommended, but who said I wouldn't gather as much information as I could? Then, you have to move with him. You don't just lay there like a log of wood. Rotate those hips and grind that ass against him. It's going to drive him crazy. My thoughts trailed off again to Wonderland, as I wondered where Marcus was at the moment. Why hadn't he come looking for me? Was he back at home catching up with the naked lady? The dreadful feeling of jealousy filled me again, and at this point, I just wanted to rip something apart. Are you listening to me at all? I quickly snapped my attention back to Lily, who looked as if she'd chewed on some bitter pills. She glared dangerously at me, and for a minute I sat as stiff as a rock, hoping if I remained that way, it'd take her attention off me. Chloe Tristan! Oh no! I gulped, getting ready to receive whatever threats or harsh words she'd throw my way. What exactly do you take me for? My best friend who is so considerate and loving and who puts up with all of my shenanigans. I wasted no time in replying. She stared at me, a little too long for my peace of mind and comfort. Then she heaved a heavy sigh. I just hope you know this is not a joke, right? I nodded, my face falling as the heaviness of the problem weighed on me. I wouldn't have had to bother about all this if only I hadn't let myself fall in love with him. Now I had succumbed to the feelings. It created a strong pull towards Marcus, and I doubted if I'd last long without him. I felt the sofa sink beside me as Lily dropped down on it. She grabbed my hand in hers, forcing me to look up at her. Now he knows all about you. You can't allow yourself to lose his favor. I know he loves you, but you have to give him something to keep him coming. Do you understand what I am saying to you? I do, I muttered. Good. First, you need to trap him all to yourself in bed. Then I'll ask Mark to enlighten you on political matters. You still have a lot to learn if you have to take your place as Luna of the pack. You're on point, I replied, squeezing her hand back when she squeezed mine. I'm sorry if I seem not serious to you. I just get carried away too easily, I ended with a pout. A smile spread across my lips when she started to giggle. What is so funny? She tried to muffle her giggles, but then they turned into laughter, and I joined in. I really can't believe I am never scared of anything. Chloe walked into my house on a beautiful morning, crying because she was scared of some lady. My cheeks tinted to a bright red color, as suddenly I felt embarrassed. She was naked and sexy. Oh, Lily, you needed to see her. She was so beautiful and mature and perfect. So what? She flipped me off. What if she's 500 years old and beautiful? She not the one Marcus wants. He wanted you even before he saw you. Don't you see the way he looks at you all the time? Like he's about to divest me of all my clothes? I suggested. Lily scoffed, giving me a look of disbelief. You didn't expect differently, did you? I shrugged, really not knowing what I'd expected. He is a werewolf. They are always horny and worse, around the women they love. It's part of the whole mate thing. He'd want to fuck you all day, 7 days a week, if he had his way. I blushed as the thoughts of all the naughty things I'd let Marcus do to me floated at the back of my mind. Then I recalled when he'd first seen me in my demon. He hadn't even batted an eyelid. He'd kissed me and promised to protect me from anything and everything that threatened to harm me. How could I let myself lose a man like that to another woman? Lily? Yes? Can we put this lecture on a hold? Lily stared at me with suspicious eyes. And why should we do that? I turned to face her, passing her an evil smirk. I need to go back to my palace, send that whore out, and show her who owns the man. Lily gave me a wide grin, and I could swear I saw her chest swell up with pride. She gave me a mock bow. Yes, my queen, I totally agree with you, my Luna. I got on my feet, heading for the door. I'll be back. Oh no, lady. I wouldn't be missing out on this, Lily interjected. But before we leave, I made you a little something. She stalked over to the refrigerator and pulled out 4 bags of chill blood. She gave me a smile, holding up a bag in one hand. All right, beastie, come get some. My demon obeyed, forcing herself out to the surface. She bared her fangs at Lily in an attempt of a thankful smile. She crossed the distance in seconds, grabbed a blood bag and sank her fangs into it. Marcus's POV. I slammed the door behind me. On reaching outside, the guards were all staring at me, and that didn't seem to help my already foul mood. What are y'all staring at? Back to your jobs! They all went back to what they were doing, and I went on my way to find my mate. She couldn't have gone too far. She was probably at Mark's or somewhere around in the woods. I had to find her soon and clear whatever doubts she could be having at the moment. I wasn't about to let a spoiled brat such as Maggie ruin what we had built up. Maggie and I had been childhood friends. Our parents, being leaders of 2 neighboring packs, had been friends even before we were born. We grew into teenagers, and that was when the sneaking around began. I'd sneak into her room at night and we'll make love until sunrise. It continued that way until when we were 20, Maggie found her mate. I was heartbroken and depressed. I even went for days without food and refused to see or talk to Maggie, even when she tried to talk to me. After a couple of weeks, news went around that Maggie had rejected her mate. I was delighted, and when she told me she did it because she wanted to be with me, I was overjoyed. I asked her out on a proper date, to which she agreed. We were together, and our love grew stronger, or so I thought. We were 179, when Maggie was seen having sex in broad daylight with another alpha, which she knew was my sworn enemy from birth, in a cornfield. And when I confronted her, she claimed that she was not in love with him, but he could give her what she wanted, and that was power. She wanted to be Luna, and at the time, I couldn't make her one because my dad was still very much alive and was still alpha of our pack. I was heartbroken once again, and I vowed never to fall in love with another she-wolf, not even my mate. It took only a few years. The alpha found his mate and dumped Maggie. Then she came back running to me. I had so much anger in me, and all the love I had had for her was reduced to nothing but pure, unadulterated hate. I asked her to stay away, but she kept forcing herself on me, and after a while, I resumed bedding her. It had been that way for the past couple of centuries, and after all this time, I finally got bored with her last year, when I heard that she'd tried to seduce Mark, when she knew quite all right that he had a mate. I kept my distance since then, and she stopped coming around for a long time, only to show up now. How do I explain all of the situation to Chloe? She might not even believe me. I just hope Maggie's crazy stunt hasn't destroyed all we had developed with each other. I could spot Mark's house. I quickly hid my scent, not wanting to alert Chloe or she'd run away from me again. I got to the stairs, and just as I was about to go in, someone cut through the communication link, and the following second, I heard Mark's voice in my head. "Where are you, Alpha? Come over to the ballroom. There's an emergency." His voice sounded urgent. What could trouble him so much if it wasn't a matter of great importance? I looked from the house and back to the direction where the ballroom stood. Should I go to Chloe first? Whatever it is that Mark intended to show me, it could wait. Alpha, why the fuck aren't you responding? Okay, I think I know where I should be. Mark. I walked further into the empty hall. I could perceive him, but he was nowhere in sight. Mark? I heard him groan from somewhere to the left, and that was when I saw the door of a restroom had been cracked open. I paused, focusing just to hear out for him again. Mark? His head peeked out the door as she shut me a glare. What happened to your nose, Alpha? Can you no longer perceive properly? I gave him an equal glare, not liking his hint at an insult. What about you? Can't you tell me you're in there, or did you lose your tongue? He gave me a long stare, then I heard his voice in my head. I have my reasons, Alpha. Why don't you come over here and see for yourself? I grunted in annoyance, but still went ahead to see whatever had made him act that way. When I got close enough, he pushed the door wider and let me through. My feet halted at the door as I stared down at the creature that was perched on one corner of the wall with its head slightly lowered. It took the form of a man. It was pale, had red eyes and long fangs sticking out of its mouth, and it looked exactly like a vampire. I cocked my head to the side as I tried to understand what exactly was going on. How could he have gotten on my lands without me noticing? I turned to give Mark a questioning look, and he shrugged. He wouldn't talk to me since I saw him, and he didn't fight back when I pounced on him. All he'd say since then was, "Let me see your alpha." I turned back to the vampire who had been as silent as a rock. "Vampire," I said in a strict voice, "one thing is sure. You chose death when you thought of getting on my pack lands, but I can make it quicker if you give me a tangible reason why you think you can walk into my land and request to see me whenever you like." Finally, his red eyes turned to me, and a mental picture of Chloe was what appeared in my mind, and my heart raced up. Was he probably here for Chloe? My wolf growled, threatening to jump out and rip him to shreds if he even went close to her. "Hello, brother-in-law-to-be," he hissed just before his fangs sank in and his eyes adjusted gradually until familiar green eyes met mine. "Finally, we get to meet in person." Mark scoffed beside me. "Chloe's brother?" he asked. A hint of disbelief still lingered in his voice, though we could both see the clear resemblance. "The one and only," he said in between chuckles. He quickly rose to his feet, and just like me, Mark readied himself to defend in case the strange brother tried to attack. He stared from me to Mark, raising his hands in surrender. "I promise you, I am not the enemy." "What do you want?" I said between gritted teeth, my patience beginning to wear thin. It also didn't help my frustration that I couldn't smell him. Either he didn't have one, or he knew how to hide it just like me. "How are you related to my woman?" "Alpha Marcus," he bowed. I gave him a once-over, wondering how he knew my name. "I came to see you. We need to talk," he said without batting an eyelid. His eyes flickered over to Mark, and he added, "In private." Mark growled, "To hell with you. Anything that concerns Chloe is my concern." "How are you related to Chloe?" I asked again. "Half-brother," he said without hesitation. "Chloe and I both share a mother." He paused for a while, then added in a whisper, "She's in danger." "What danger?" I asked. His eyes flickered over to Mark, and Mark growled back. I wiped off the sweat that had started forming on my forehead. I was already worried sick. I didn't need all the drama. I nodded to the stranger, then softly pat Mark on the shoulder. He immediately relaxed. "What information do you have?" "How has Chloe been?" he started. "And how does that concern you? You weren't there when she needed you, and now you go all big brother on her." Mark snapped, showing his clear dislike for the vampire. "Beta Mark," he called in a soft voice, and I heard Mark drag in a sharp breath. It was a good thing that I wasn't the only one in shock of the situation. "I am truly impressed with how well you've taken care of my baby sister, but that doesn't mean you can misbehave with me. Be careful." Mark glared at him but still kept quiet. The vampire looked at me once more, and the splitting resemblance between him and my mate was terrific. The only difference was, he looked older and paler, and he had a full head of black hair. "How is it that Chloe never mentioned you? And why didn't you take her in when your parents were murdered?" He scoffed. "My mother wouldn't allow that. She personally instructed me to make sure Chloe was safe, and that couldn't have happened by keeping her beside me." "So you knew she was here all along?" "I followed her all the way here, and only left when the Beta Queen found her. My mother told me something about her being a silver wolf and blah blah blah, so I was hoping you'd fall in love with her." "So, does she know you?" He shook his head negatively, a sad look taking over his features. The last time she saw me was when she was 3. My mum would always sneak out to come see me, and she'll bring her along. He paused. His eyes hardened slightly as he recalled an unpleasant memory. That was until Grandpa found out. Chloe has a grandfather too? He nodded, meeting my eyes with anger-filled ones. I got the message even without him speaking, and my body began to shake with anger. I was just going to inquire more when a knock came on the door. Alpha! Beta! Shit! Mark cursed, quickly looking from me to the stranger. Hide fast! Just as he levitated up to the ceiling and floated above, the door busted open and an Omega ran in. She was panting too hard for my liking, being the weakest force in the pack. They were almost like humans. Weak. What's wrong? The Luna, she said. My heart leapt and my eyes shifted up to her brother's when I saw him out of the corner of my eye stiffen. He looked just as concerned, and I couldn't help but worry if Chloe had gotten herself in some kind of trouble. And the Beta Queen, she added. Lily? What happened? Speak! Mark growled, exchanging a look of worry with me. Chloe, Lily, and Maggie are all in the palace fighting. She broke off, shaking her head. What I meant to say, Lily and Chloe are beating up Maggie. You need to intervene quickly. No one can stop them. Mark chuckled, and I gave him a dirty look. I dismissed the maid, telling her we'll be on our way soon. I looked up, and the vampire was gone, nowhere to be seen. Fuck, he had to just vanish into thin air? Mark muttered under his breath, his face contorting to rage. We need to find him. I nodded. Chloe might be in grave danger for him to risk getting into a place like this, just to give me information. We have to work fast, but in the meantime, let's see what our girls are up to.